Is the smack over here. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Santa Clara City Council meeting. Could you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for our statement of values? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
As we gather, we humbly seek blessings upon this meeting. May we act with strength, courage, and will to perform our obligations and duties to our people with justice to all. Let us seek wisdom so that we may act in the best interest of our people, our neighbors, and our country. All this we ask so we may serve our community with fairness and respect, putting their needs before all.
Thank you. Please be seated. Assistant City Clerk, roll call.
Vice Mayor Mahan. Councilmember Hardy.
Present.
Councilmember O'Neill.
Here.
Councilmember Davis. Councilmember Watanabe. Councilmember Shahal. And Mayor Gilmore.
Here.
Thank you.
There's a request to excuse Councilmember Chahal.
So moved.
Motion second. Please register your vote. And that passes unanimously. Those present, thank you.
Madam Mayor, may I read the
Yes.
statement of behavior?
Yes, please.
The City of Santa Clara has adopted a code of ethics and values and behavioral standards for public meetings to promote and maintain the highest levels of conduct. This includes mutual respect, robust discussion, and allowing city business to be done in an efficient and consistent manner. Please note, as the presiding officer, the mayor's direction in matters of process and decorum should be followed, and that use of the gavel indicates all conversations must conclude and everyone in attendance should come to order and attention. Welcome and thank you for your participation.
Thank you for that. Next, we're going to move on to continuances and exceptions, and we had a request to continue item 2A. And I think, was that request for a week, City Manager, to the 19th?
Yes, we have a request to continue the item to November 19th.
November 19th, so that's item 2A, which is action on Second Amendment to the exclusive negotiations agreement with Republic Metropolitan LLC for the site located at 500 Benton Street, Santa Clara. Is there a motion to continue for a week?
Second.
Motion second. Any discussion? Any member of the public want to discuss the continuance? All right. Please register your vote. And that passes unanimously. Are there any other requests for continuances? Council members? City staff? Any member of the public like to request a continuance on an item on the agenda? Okay. Seeing none, we are then going to move into our first.
Madam Mayor, reports
Yes.
of action taken in closed
Oh,
session.
did I skip that?
Yeah.
Okay, reports of action taken in closed session.
Council took no reportable action in closed
Thank you.
session.
I'm glad I didn't skip that. That was important information. Thank you, City Attorney. All right, next, I'm so excited to move into special order of business. I forgot that. Okay, so as our very first special order of business, we have the recognition of the Parade of Champions Committee. What I'd like to do is ask the committee members just to come forward so when I talk about it, people can actually see who I'm talking about. So if the committee would like to come forward. Yes, if you could just stand at the podium here, so it would be great to see that. All right. That's a big committee. Wow. It's getting bigger as I speak. Wonderful. And I'm sure your leaders here will introduce everyone at the appropriate time, but As a special order of business, the City Council will be recognizing the Santa Clara Parade of Champions. Santa Clara Parade of Champions was established by former Mayor and Councilmember Larry Marcelli in 1945 and has since been a time-honored legacy in Santa Clara. This event has been one of the longest-running unifying events in the history of our city. Through the Parade of Champions, lifelong memories were made and community bonds were strengthened for generations to follow. As such, we were so excited that the historic return of the Santa Clara Parade of Champions, the parade returned after 24 years. So at this time, I'd like to invite Santa Clara Parade of Champions President Anna Vargas Smith to give us a speech and introduce everyone here. All right, Anna?
Wow, yes.
Welcome and welcome, everyone.
Certainly takes a village, doesn't it, you know? Now if I can get used to the clicker.
We just need you to speak in the little red microphone there too, so everyone at home can hear you. Thank you.
How do I back up? There we go. Thank you, Mayor Lisa Gilmore, City Council, Deanna Santana. This is really, thank you so much for everything you've done. We have so many people to thank here. You can see by the group that a lot of people were involved here. I don't see Ray here tonight, but if everyone, at the end here, we have Margaret Horosco, one of our volunteers, Teresa Sulcer, she's also a cultural commission, Linda Mello, our social media specialist.
What a good job Linda does.
Woo,
Wow.
woo, 24
all the
hours
time,
a
every
day,
day.
you know?
Wow. Morning, noon, and night. Thank you, Linda.
Fernanda Eaton and Lauren Eaton. They were a part of the Homestead Village crew under Andy Ratterman. Jody, unfortunately, had a wedding and could not be with us, but she really helped with the setup of our organization as far as IRS and all that. Patty Allman, she's the secretary of the organization, and she was in the Homestead Village most of the time, as was Dan Meyerberg, who's also a sponsor, and he pretty much did all the heavy lifting. And then we have Karen, who is treasurer, but also wore operations hat with the event with me. And behind there, we have Patty Lung. She's our webmaster, did all the changes on the website. And then we have Nancy Biagini, who kind of ran things down over at the staging area with volunteers, Iron Fist. And then we have, of course, Mary Grizzle here. She's our public relations gal. And then we have Andy Ratterman, who's on our board as well. Mike Lombardi couldn't be here tonight. He's our CPA. So we had some brilliant minds who got together for this organization. I also want to introduce to you our DECA Wilcox team. And I don't know if you're familiar with DECA, but they do a lot of, Karen is, they do a lot of business projects, and they compete at state level, national level, and even international level. So we've got some brilliant young minds here as well. Alan, why don't you introduce your team? Step over here.
If you could come to the microphone, Alan. Thank you. So everyone at home can hear you. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Alan, the co-vice president of our Wilcox DECA team. Right here we have Aman, Rahul, and Jessica, and Jonathan. They are also participating members and officers in our DECA team. What we've done? Well, we did several different things for the Parade of Champions. Jonathan ran point on our day, like door-to-door notification to let people who were in the parade zone know that they were in the parade zone. Rahul and Aman were key to making some of the posters that we distributed for the Parade of Champions. And Jessica was our social media person who worked closely with Linda and the Parade of Champions social media to make sure the Instagram page got good recognition as well as the Facebook. And then I helped everywhere.
All the hats, you know. So we have a mighty but large team, and we were able to achieve the impossible here. I'm going to struggle with my clicker here. All right. And here we go. So thank you, Mayor Lisa Gilmore, City Council, City Manager, Communications Team as well, City Events Department, PD, we love the PD, FD, Public Works, the whole community, our Board of Directors, of course we love, Consultant Ray Pulver, Parade Committee leads, all present here, our sponsors, JW House, and the DECA team. Like I said, it takes a village, and I think together the community made history in bringing back a parade after 24 years. It's a dream come true for all of us. I don't think any of us slept for 9 months. But one thing that stuck with us and kept us inspired the entire time was one thing that you said, Mayor Lisa Gilmore, and it was on March 4th, and we repeated it often, when everyone was in doubt whether to move forward with a community grant and whether we can hit the milestones. You said if anyone could do this, it would be this organization right here. So when things got a little tough and we were like a little exhausted, we would remember that and we'd push ourselves again. So that was what fired us up every time. So, and it was all worth it. The community was overwhelmingly positive on parade day. People couldn't stop smiling. So we're ready to do it again for 2020. Again, special, I introduced everyone already. Our MVPs were the Fabulous Four. They never slept. It was Karen Ardizzoni, Mary Grizzle, and Patty Allman and myself. We were a little short staff on the operational side and live and learn. Our board, they brought massive expertise and advice about setups for nonprofits and kept us on course. Our committee leads, like Linda Mello and Jessica right here, who never slept on social media, and Patricia Lung, keeping the website active all the time. Nick Casper, I don't see him here tonight, but he helped with all the introductions and getting us out there in the business community. And Nancy Biagini with all the volunteers, keeping them in line. Again, Ray couldn't be here tonight, but he brought 30 years of experience. And Taylor Amarante, he was the announcer at the event.
Great.
Isn't he great?
Yeah.
He's the
He's so
earthquakes announcer. He so wanted to be here. He was going to wear his champion shirt and everything, you know. And I've already introduced you, Fernanda Eden, Lauren Eaton, Teresa, Margaret, and Peter. I don't see him here tonight as well, but he painted the lines on Homestead Village at the strange hours in the middle of the night. And so and we all wore different hats because that's what needed to happen. Really, who doesn't love a parade? So clearly Santa Clara loves a parade because according to Santa Clara Police Department, there were 8,000 people there. Now, if you listen to Channel 11's newscast, they said 10,000. So, somewhere between 8 and 10.
9.
We're pretty, yeah, let's go 9. 9's good, you know. Not bad for a first time out, right? There was about 2K in the parade, and there was like 11 marching bands all the way from Pittsburgh. They were all over the place. Vanguard, of course, 8 floats. There's these giant balloons from Pennsylvania we flew out. Spirit of 45, literally a 101-year-old vet was in one of those Jeeps, and Rosie the Riveter was there. So we had numerous cultural groups like the Sikhs, the Portuguese, the Chinese. Earthquakes was there. Sharky was there. Yeah, we had all kinds of Latino dancers, youth and sports groups, leagues, robotics. Cats Love Mars was there. Will Cox was in the parade, you know, the robotics team. Rotary, Harris Last, Triton Museum, Mission College, Santa Clara U, Unified School. The list was really long, so I won't go through it, but everybody seemed to be there. And the grand marshals, they were super grand. I'm a little starstruck because I love Brandy Chastain and her husband, Jerry Smith, who's been at SCU for 30 years. They're both SCU alumni. Carney Lansford, you know, and Paul Rosa, they all graduated from Wilcox. And local boy's done good pretty much. He won the World Series, and even for Little League, he won the World Series. And then, of course, Paul Rosa won state championship. We're all proud of them. I mean, it's good that the community knows what great champions we have all around us, you know. So, yes, it's been a stellar year, and we're on a mission to do good in the community once again for 2020. So we're asking everyone here who wants to join us. There's opportunities for sponsorship, volunteers, participate in the parade, our Homestead Village, or just nonprofit network that we're creating. Just go to our website, scparadeofchampions.org. Social media, we've got some stellar social media people here tonight. So if you donate money, Jody said. By the way, we did achieve well over 80K in fundraising, and you know, so we have people who are not afraid to get out there in the community and ask. So proud of everyone here. If you're looking for videos, pictures, the community's been overwhelming, just throwing them at us on Facebook. So please go in there, join Facebook. Santa Clara Parade of Champions, same name on Instagram, and there's tons of wonderful stuff, new stuff to look at, not just the 1945 stuff, so it's pretty fantastic. And since you can't wait for 2020 fun times, we are going to be participating with the Historic Home Tour. Santa's coming to town. It's a classic car cruise, so you guys join us on December 6th or December 7th. We'll be hanging out at the Mission Library. There's hot cocoa, live jazz, and all kinds of community vibe stuff. So let's do it again. So mark your calendars, September 26th, 2020. So any questions? I got answers.
I want to ask Linda Mello, how many days till the
Oh
next
my
parade?
God.
Because I'm sort of missing it on social media. Everything was how many days till the parade. No, I love it. I want to thank you all because you really brought back a piece of history for us. And I have to say, I was just so overwhelmed that you did this amount of work in such a short period of time. And you raised all that money and you had so much excitement going on in the community that you've now proven yourself for next year. So I'm hoping it'll be, I'm not going to say easier because now everyone I'm sure has a lot of ideas on how they want to make the parade better for next year. And I'm sure you're writing them all down.
All of them.
But you've really done such a phenomenal job. And, with a lot of negative things that go on that, the media reports all the time about things happening, you really brought back something positive to our community. And you reminded a lot of us that even though we're a big city, we're still a small town and we love our parade. And everybody being involved in it just made it so much nicer and such a nice warm feeling of just what a simple parade can bring about. The work all of you did was just amazing. I don't know how you did it, and I don't know why you're still not sleeping right now, because now there's a lot of expectations, that are going to be put on your back because you did such a phenomenal job. So congratulations. You should be so proud of yourselves. We're really proud of what you did. So
Aw,
if
thank
we
you.
can give them a big hand for what they've done. If you'd like to say something, we have a recognition for you, a mayoral recognition we'd like to present to all of you. But if you'd like to make your comments now, at the end, we'd like to have you all up here for like a big group picture. Because as it looks like, it took a village, but the village needed a leader. So Anna, Mary, Ann, your core team, you're awesome, all of you. Because it needed great leadership and you provided it. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Mary.
Hi, everybody. First of all, I want to thank each one of you for this honor of having me up here. And the last 3 or 4 years have been truly magical for me. Some of the most wonderful people have popped into my life out of nowhere, making some of my wildest dreams come true. Anna would call it serendipity. Some say you can't stop an idea whose time has come. I call it magical. Who would have thought that a mere 5 years ago that a precise plan for our historical downtown would soon be enacted? Back then, it was just a gleam in my eye. Who would have thought that 50-year-old tradition called the Parade of Champions would once again march the hollows of our downtown? Back then, it was a gleam in Rod Dunham's eyes. Little did he know he would light a fire so fierce that it could not be extinguished. On parade day, I was privileged to be able to mingle with the public in lieu of working the day as my other cohorts were doing. I was able to see firsthand there was not one frown in the crowd, just happy laughter, families gathered together sharing the good times. I was able to go around thanking people for coming and thanking them for all the support they had given us. I can tell you when I saw the parade turning the corner from Benton to Monroe, I was breathless, teary-eyed, and full of wonder. As to what I would be experiencing. Today I can say I'm still riding that magic carpet. God has chosen my latter years to make my wildest dreams come true. Thank you, Lisa Gilmore. We wished upon a star, and you made it possible.
It was the council, but thank you very much. It was really wonderful also to see Mrs. Cunha and Mrs. Marcelli in the parade, they were absolutely thrilled and had such a wonderful time. And they both said to me, this was the first time that they've been able to sit and enjoy the parade because they worked every year, their husbands every year to get the parade going. They've never had a chance to really enjoy it. And they were both like two teenagers enjoying the parade.
Tell me. Tell me about it, Lisa. Back in the parade staging area, I had the great joy of escorting Elise Marsali and B. Kuna to their car. And, you know, sometimes things get a little crazy on parade day, and there was a couple of delays that they hadn't expected. And I'm worried because these two women are in their 90s. But what made that whole day worth it for me was to see those two old ladies grinning, laughing, telling me stories about all the things that went wrong, all the years their husbands had done it, and then going through the parade route and seeing the tears in the eyes of senior citizens. It was really worth it. And I'm just going to say it for everybody at home that's watching, for all of you up there, for everybody in the audience tonight. The first fundraiser for the Santa Clara Parade of Champions is a real easy one. There it is right there, the holiday cruise. And if you go to the Home Tours public site, where there's free cookies, cider, hot chocolate, there's also going to be 15 or 20 opportunity baskets that are going to be raffled off. And that's going to kick off the 2020 fundraiser for the parade. It's in conjunction with the home tour. And I think maybe all of you up there still want to buy your tickets to the home tour. I have them right
We'll
here.
start
with
on that
me.
end of the council over there,
Okay.
and you can work their way down. Okay?
Yeah, I've got the tickets tonight. So you'll be hearing from me. Thank you.
Thanks, Nancy. Anyone else? I have a whole list of speakers here, so yes.
I just want to thank all our sponsors that appeared today in support of us. Dan, Randy. Randy is here. From Kylie. And Lena from SES Hall. I just want to thank everybody that supported us.
All right, thank you. Now, I'm going to ask that you come up. We'll give you the recognition. We can take a picture, and then I have a list of people that may want to speak on this, and we'll do that afterwards. So if you'd like to join us up here for the recognition. And then council, I don't know, should we stay back here?
I would stay back here.
Yeah.
There's too many of them.
That's a nice big group. I just want to I'll hand this to them and they can.
We'll stay up here. Bring the village in. Yeah.
Karen. I was going to say something about you on the golf cart. All people in the back.
Yeah.
Tall teenage boys on the back.
Yeah, they are. Short people in the front. Let's move over here.
Okay.
I'm Mary's photographer. Ready? One, two.
Woohoo! Good job.
So you want this in your letter of
Thank you for helping out the MC.
Hey, that was a tough job, but I liked it.
On my list of things.
Sweetheart, you are.
It was fun.
Excellent job.
Every week.
Excellent job. Excellent job. Like, how did you have time with MCCF, man? Like, what's up with that?
I didn't even.
I
I
know.
was actually, you know, I flew back that morning.
I know he's good. He's good.
That's why they don't let me speak about it.
And you know, Mom, when he showed me the platform,
A list of speakers on this. Oh, knocked myself out. Okay. All right, I had a list of speakers. I knocked myself out of this, so. All right, here we go. If you'd like to speak when I call your name, please come forward. Alan Loomis, Andy Ratterman, Anna, I don't know if you have more to say, but you filled out a speaker card. Linda Mello, Adam Thompson, Rahul G, Emma Newton, and then Patty Allman. So whoever would like to speak, please come forward. Okay, yes, go ahead.
Hello, I am Alan, and we had a presentation to put up. Did you guys get that?
I don't know. Was there a presentation? No? No.
No? All right, well,
Oh. Oh, the next
Next
slide
slide over?
over? Okay. The next, oh, so it's part of this presentation.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
there we go.
Well, sorry.
Okay, so that's all of you together. Okay, go
Yes.
ahead.
So my name is Alan Loomis. I am the co-vice president of DECA, and DECA is a student-run organization that we go to different STEM-based and business-based competitions to compete to display our knowledge and our presentation skills. And now, personally, I love the presentation part. I love working with people, and for me, that presenting in DECA is one of the best things we do. I'm also a teacher. I teach martial arts to several students. So I work with kids as young as 5 to as old as I am. And for me, I love it. Not just because I get to teach them, but because I get to work with them. So imagine how excited I was after being in the Parade of Champions. I didn't just work with people, I worked with a community. It was just such a large base, and it was really great for me being able to volunteer and just do all the different things with them. So like volunteering at local events, all of us here in DECA, it was a great experience for us. We got to work with community, got to take pictures with different people at Art and Wine, got to host a game with them, got to hold up a booth. It was great. We also got to distribute flyers. Now, some people might not think this is so fun because we spent 4 hours on a Thursday after school doing this. These two know what I'm talking about. Driving around, asking local businesses, hey, would you like to support our Parade of Champions? But in that long day, we bonded together, and it was a really great experience that we got to do for our city, for our community, for the Parade of Champions. We also got to do surveys and some analysis on those surveys, which is great for us because that helps us with our STEM and business-based knowledge parts of our competitions. And we also got to assist on the parade day. So we got to see views like that picture up there. That picture, you could see Mary's face right up there and how excited she is. And you can even see Ms. Hardy taking a picture on the side as well. And just seeing pictures like that, just imagining scenes like that from the parade was one of the greatest things for us. And now lastly, we would like to thank all of you, of course. And we do have a video. Do you know if I can just click it on
Yeah,
here?
go ahead.
All right. Hopefully we trust.
If this works. Ah,
Hopefully it does. We'd like to thank our editor, Julian Loredo. He spent many hours working on this with some,
okay. We make it bigger? Oh, good.
and the Wilcox AV Club as well.
Oh, I love those dinosaurs. They were awesome.
Alrighty.
Yay.
And so thank you for letting us be a part of this great historical event. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That was wonderful. Thank you for your help and that. Andy Ratterman.
Yeah, I'm Andy Rotterman. I live over on Lewis Street. And I wanted to thank a few people. I was pulled into this a little while back by Anna Vargas Smith. And now what I'm referring to as Anna and the gang, because there's no way you can get that many people and without messing up the names. And what this has done for me, for the community, in terms of community building, in terms of opportunities for our youth to be seen and appreciated by the community, I think it's just marvelous. So I'd like to thank very much the City Council, the mayor's strong support for this event, because without you, we wouldn't have been able to do it. And we do, very grateful. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. Anyone else? Adam, the clap's for you. Okay, come on.
I wish. Everybody should be clapping for Anna and the gang. President of the Old Quad Residents Association, this is an amazing event. It's been a huge success, and we can't thank Anna and the gang enough. Really shows off Santa Clara's best colors, which is its community. And thank council, city staff, and everybody else that put this event together, and I hope to see more in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? If you'd like to come forward. Before we end, I have one vision of Rod Dunham sitting in the front row the night that, with his hat, yeah. And I just want to say that I know he's not here this evening, but he was such a major part of bringing the parade back. He had this idea in his head of bringing it back, and I think a lot of us said, how are you going to get that done? Like, how is that ever going to happen? And it happened, and I know he really believed in it. So Rod, if you're listening or watching, congratulations. You're a huge part of this, and we very much appreciate you. So. All right, anyone else on the council? Any comments? Anyone? Karen?
I know why Amon came tonight, because I'm writing his letter of recommendation, and he helped build the big robot that you saw. When I saw it, I looked at it and I said, does it turn? But I'm so excited, and I know my robotics team said, let's do this again. The kids from DECA were all talking about it, and there were a lot of kids that said, me too. So I'm excited that this can just get bigger and bigger. And as I said when you brought the idea, I'm not going to rain on your parade. I'm so excited.
Thank you. Anyone else? Kathy Watanabe?
Thank you, Mayor. Just congratulations, really. Your hard work showed, and with all the smiles, with all the pictures, job well done. Kudos to all of you, and we just look forward to seeing this just continue on. I think probably one of the best things really was just to, like Andy Ratterman just talked about, the community building of the event. I think first and foremost, it was a great community builder, and we need more events like this to continue to bring our great community together. So kudos, look forward to next year.
Debbie?
So Anna, the second fundraiser after Nancy gets done with the home tour is at the SES Hall for the crab feed, because we had the best time of our lives. The council members enjoyed that fundraiser, so anything involving food, we're there. But thank you for all your hard work.
Thanks. Anyone else? Okay, thank you. I think that's it for now. Now the bar is set really, really high. So 2020, here we go. Is there a date yet for the parade?
She did.
What is it?
September 26th.
9/26, September 26th. All right, everyone mark your calendars. I'm sure you'll be asked to be involved in one way or another, but we hope for the mass community support for next year. So thank you, great job, good job. Okay, we're going to move on to our second special order of business, which is a presentation on the 2019 USA BMX Summer Nationals. And I'm going to turn to Councilmember Watanabe to make this presentation.
Talk about a tough act to follow. You
I
gotta
know,
come up
huh?
and
We'll
present
take
after
a
that.
30-second break, and then we'll go into this next one. No, this is great too.
We'll let them,
Well,
should
maybe
we-
let them
yeah,
just
we'll-
walk
yeah,
out the door.
mhm.
Thanks.
I don't want to steal Nick's thunder.
Nope, we
Oh,
want to
man,
hear
I'm-
all about it too.
No, those guys did an amazing job. And just kind of even to segue in, for them to start that after 24 years, if anybody can agree with how tough that is, as we started ours, we had been 20 years before we had a last national event. So as they were talking about it, I was literally like, went through the exact same type thing. So good to see them. They sound like they're already on the ball for next year.
They are.
So congratulations to them for sure.
Oh, thanks, Nick. All right.
Well, now that they've cleared the room to go get ready for next year, as a special order of business this evening, the Police Athletic League, or PAL, as many of us know it as, has requested the opportunity to recognize local support in its initiative to host the USA BMX Summer Nationals 2019 at the infamous Santa Clara BMX track. And the event was held August 16th through the 18th. And I would say I wasn't able to be there. We had just actually returned from out of the country, so I wasn't able to get to the track, but I heard it was phenomenal. I can't wait to hear your report, Nick. But at this time, Nick Valencia, I know this was a real labor of love for you and something that you've been doing for a long, long time. And so glad to have you here to talk about the Nationals.
Definitely. So thank you, Kathy. Good evening, afternoon to everybody. Just a few short years ago, met Kathy. She came out we had a little open house thing there that we do usually about every 6 months. We just invite the community out. Basically just a community ride day, let the little kids come out. We have Strider bikes that are as little as 3-year-olds all the way up. There's a 51 and over class. So if you're older and you still want to pedal around and get out there and burn some calories, we definitely welcome you out there. I had met Kathy that day. Little did I know that the conversation we had would kind of steamroll and work out perfectly. Her daughter is involved in a lot of sports. We started talking about different travel leagues and things like that. And I always have this great bitter thing. I go to this one big regional event down in Bakersfield every year. No offense to Bakersfield, but not my favorite place to go. It's always hot and just kind of a drag. She was going up, I think, the next week to Sacramento or Roseville or something for a basketball thing. And we joked about, we have a lot of that facility, we have a lot of that infrastructure here in our own city, and we're always going to all these kind of oddball places, things like that. It was kind of already in the works, but it kind of gave me that perfect person to kind of lean on, work with, and kind of really spell that out to the Police Athletic League and say, we've become this great thing. We just need a little bit of a push over the hump. We just need a couple little connections and things like that. Shortly thereafter, we submitted an RFP. The last time Santa Clara had hosted a national was in 1999. So just like the parade, it had been just about 20 years since we did it. We had finished #1 in the country for all the different, they have a algorithm, kind of a ranking system of all the different tracks and stuff. So we had finished that year, so the last year and current, as the #1 track in the country. So it kind of snowballed, everything kind of looked good. So we went ahead and did the RFP, leaned on Kathy as well as a bunch of people in the city, just to get us a lot of city metrics and things like that, just a lot of the stuff that's in those RFPs for submissions and things. Got the good word that we were granted that national. Like you said, it happened October 16th to 18th. Super well attended. We were the biggest national on the entire West Coast. We were the 3rd largest national in the country, which is a huge deal for us, and in turn, a huge deal for the city. And luckily, everything went so well so that we've secured another one, which made the RFP a ton earlier because went from getting all this data together to now we came back to the table and said, we just did it last year. We can do it again. You know we can do it. So it helped out. I've got a bunch of data here that I'm just going to run through. It's super fast, easy, but it kind of just spells out the importance of what it does for the local community, the economic impact, just all throughout that area in the track. Kind of that's exactly kind of Kathy's backyard in Alviso, all the different hotels and restaurants there at Rivermark, and it just made for an excellent event. So just running through, and kind of the key thing that I like to see here, we had 19 different states that attended the event. The cool thing is, the 19 states is great, but we had 3 different national federation teams. The Canadian team, the French team, and the Australian national team came. So that is kind of cool because it sets you apart from, not only are you getting that reach regionally that you're doing well, but when national federations are going to send entire squads of people to ride at your track, you're definitely at that kind of upper caliber. So we were super happy about that attendance. Total participants throughout the weekend, they clocked it at 732 entrants that entered, and like I said, it goes from as young as a 5-year-old beginner that kind of just lives in Santa Clara, just did the national because it was there, to the next pro that comes maybe from Southern California or Arizona, things like that. Like I mentioned, there was about 20 different states and a couple different countries. They have a metric that they use to kind of calculate over the whole weekend. They say that the average participant brings 3.2 spectators, which would be 2,342 spectators. So total attendance daily, they guessed at 3,074 for a 3-day attendance of 9,223. Definitely a lot of people. The cool thing that worked out for us, and what really helps the city, especially when we come back and we need assistance on things, being that it's a 3-day event, over 9,000 people, the cool thing is you have to feed those people, you have to put them in hotels, and that's a lot of where the city kind of gets a lot of that tax revenue back, and it just definitely goes out throughout the entire community. We sold out. I know 4 hotels had sold all the way out, and they were already in the 5th one. They guesstimate that the rooms, 2,000 room nights booked, just basically the way that they do the algorithm. They guessed at about 178,000 in just rooms. And between all the food and beverage, they have, like I said, they have a pretty dialed algorithm that they use, and that's kind of what they go back to cities with. They anticipated just over 250,000 in food and beverage spend, along with the 178 for the hotels. So they put it at just under 450,000. So 448,000 in economic impact just through all the different spending when you bring in the 9,000 people and they're there for 3 days. So for us, that's a huge deal because it definitely, I mean, we're appreciative of the land that we have there, and it just kind of shows that you can definitely have a nonprofit that also brings value. They're not just taking up the land because they're there. You just got to have them there. But they can definitely not just take the land, but they can definitely kind of push back into that economic system. And it does kind of wonders for that area for sure. I personally wanted to thank Dave Staub and Deanna Santana, Public Works. Because as we got closer, we started to realize, and we kind of knew they do a lot of the pre-sign stuff. The sanction had called us and told us early, like, you guys are going to have a big race. It might be even bigger than you think. So at that point, we kind of started getting on the horn. I know Kathy was just about to leave on vacation, so I'd emailed her. I was like, hey, we're going to need our normal parking lot, and if you can get us any overflow, because it's definitely going to be big. She got on the horn, Deanna and Dave. We worked it out through the week, got a bunch of overflow parking. And the good thing about that is you want people to come, you want it to be big, but if it's so big that it becomes an inconvenience, those are kind of the things that the sanction will go back, and they may say it was really big, but if they get a lot of complaints about parking or you don't have the hotels to outfit everybody, it's kind of a balance. So a big thank you to them for helping us out with that, and it definitely, everything went smooth. Like I said, it ended up being a huge event. The economic impact was good, and it just, I mean, for all the local riders, the community, everybody, it was really happy, and like I said, our success at the track bleeds over and kind of just makes it the city's success. We've already got that second one locked up for May 1st to 3rd this next year. And I've been telling people we had 20 years without one. Now, to me, I want to go 20 years and beyond with one. So we got a couple of plaques here. I brought one from Mike from POW, and then we did one also for Kathy and the entire council. But yeah, if you guys have any questions, I know not everybody's super familiar with it over there, but we're doing a lot of good, great stuff over there, and just really happy to kind of be engaged more in the community and the council and everything.
I think it's great what you did and bringing the nationals here. And I mean, I know what I used to spend going to soccer tournaments with my kids wherever we went for, a 3-day weekend, other things. So I know the type of money that people spend when they come for a sport. And I think you've done a phenomenal job there at the BMX track. I was going to ask Mike Walkie if he'd like to come forward because I think, are you the president of the PAL board? Yes, you are. You're in so many things, Parks and Recreation Commission, PAL board. So Mike, I don't know if you'd like to say anything because this was a big undertaking and Nick's done a phenomenal job. Thank you, Kathy, for bringing this forward as well. I know how involved you were.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes.
I definitely want to say something because Nick, Marissa, Joey, their spouses, and numerous parents kind of took that track over 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And they took it from a good track to a over-the-top track. And this is the kind of stuff that happens when people like this volunteer and put their time in. People that give their time unwillingly, just 100%. And this is the positive things that happen from it. And we want to thank Nick from the bottom of our heart as the PAL board as well.
Yeah, thank you, Nick. Let's give him a round of applause.
I was going to add, you do it without expecting anything in return, and it totally comes from Nick's heart. I know that, so,
Thank
yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been, I've ridden since I was 12 and I'm 35. I'll turn 36
Oh, you don't
next
have to
year.
tell
So.
us how old you are.
Yeah. Yeah, so I've been doing it a good time. BMX has afforded me a lot of opportunities. I've done a ton of traveling. I can't even begin to tell you all the different places I've been, but now I'm at that point where we kind of have our finger on the pulse. We know what works, and the more we can do. We have a lot of riders. The World Championships this year will be in Houston, so we're going to have a slew of just local talented riders that will go and compete in that. It'll be their first time. It's a little different because it's on the U.S. soil. Last year was in Denmark. We had, I think, 14 people that went from Santa Clara. So it'll be good because they'll get that little taste of it, but it definitely breeds them from being just local riders that come out and try it. They get involved in the state series, regional, national, and now they just kind of go on and so forth. So it's definitely a good thing, and we're just super proud and great that we can help PAL with the revenue that it kind of drives throughout, because we run throughout the entire year, so a lot of that revenue helps them do all the other different programs that they do through the community. So we're super thankful, and just for everybody, Kathy, Lisa, everybody.
Okay, for a couple things, if you'd like to present that to Mike and Kathy, if you go down front so you can get some pictures
Yeah,
with
for
Nick.
sure.
And secondly, please come back before the May event to let us know, and we can talk about it under special order of business so that we can get our community excited so they can go out and watch.
Definitely will
Because
do.
it's really something to watch
Yep.
and see. So thank you so much for coming. Kathy, if you'd like to get that on our behalf. And Mike, if you'd like to come up, someone take some pictures. Come forward. You guys would like to stand up, council? We can stand up in the back. Just so we're in the picture. Teresa, I don't know about you though. Can you see Teresa? All right.
say if you can see the camera can see you.
Oh, can we get Dan Winter to come forward from PAL? Good, thank you. I'm ahead of you, man.
Yeah.
Sorry, Dan.
Whoa.
All right, make walkie, wait, okay. Thank you, thank you, Nick. All right, the good news continues. Next, we have presentation by our Santa Clara Sister Cities Association on the student exchange visit to Izumo, Japan. All right, so as a special order of business this evening, we will have a presentation from our Sister Cities Association Youth Commission on their recent exchange visit to Santa Clara Sister City of Izumo, Japan. The Santa Clara Sister Cities Associations offers student exchange program scholarships for Santa Clara students to visit Santa Clara Sister Cities. The program gives young individuals in our community an opportunity to explore new cultures and to be more enriched through global exchanges around the world. In June 2019, the Santa Clara Sister Cities Association organized a student exchange trip to Izumo, Japan for 4 students serving on the Youth Commission. So I see that Margaret Horosco is up, and if you'd like to start, Margaret, and tell us about what happened. And I was there for a portion of the time, so
Yep.
I can attest to the wonderful work the students were doing and the great exchange. So I'm anxious to hear about what happened after as well. So welcome.
So good evening, Mayor Gilmore, City Council, and community members. My name is Margaret Horosco, as Mayor Gilmore said, and I was the adult chaperone on the trip to Izumo, Japan. For reference, Izumo is about a 3-hour drive north of Hiroshima on the coast facing the Sea of Japan. We flew out of Izumo on June 5th, and we returned on Monday, June 17th. So we had about 10 days in Japan. I had 5 days of homestay with 2 different families, and the teens had homestays with their families the entire stay in Izumo. I appreciate the opportunity to attend the trip with the Sister Cities organization and to get to know more about Izumo, Japan, and the Shimane Prefecture. Our students were great ambassadors. Hosting opportunities for next year include the high school exchange with Izumo in January, Izumo Global Exchange in March, Coimbra, Portugal in April, and Limerick, Ireland in October. The mission of Santa Clara Sister Cities Association is to bring different cultures together and to foster person-to-person relationships. The objectives are to improve the student lives through cultural exchanges and to build global understanding and strong leadership skills. I'm happy to introduce Hana McNierney, Surya Talavarjula, Connor Nakashiki, and Mitali Gadhai.
Thank you. Welcome. Welcome back.
Hello, good evening, council members. My name is Hannah McNierney, and I am co-president of Santa Clara Sister Cities Association Youth Commissions. And here at SCSCA, our group revolves around forming connections and relationships both internationally and locally. Not only do we host exchange programs, we also seek to give back to the community that allows these wonderful opportunities to occur. At the moment, we are focusing on helping out in the local setting and are currently working on future events in Santa Clara and community outreach. Upcoming events include tree lighting and selling hot dogs on December 6th, our tea ceremony fundraising event on February 8th, 2020, cooking meals for families staying at the JAW house, cleaning up streets near Santa Clara High School, and knitting scarves for the elderly. Can we move on to the next slide, please? Thank you. Although SCSCA is outstanding in many ways, I believe every one of the youth members, whether they have traveled or simply volunteer, agree with me when I say that what really sets this group apart from all the others are the bonds that we form all across the world. When I visited Izumo, I was not just an exchange student. I was their family, I was their daughter, I was one of their own. I was absolutely blown away from the sheer generosity and positivity my host family had to offer. And thanks to their constant efforts to include me in their conversations, cook me extravagant meals, and take me to countless tourist attractions and places, I can say with no hesitation that this trip was one of the most eye-opening and amazing trips I've ever been on, and I'm eternally grateful to everyone who made this trip possible. I will never forget the moments where I braided my host sister's hair late into the night, when I opened my bento box at school and was met with countless colors and foods that my host mother must have woken up early in the morning to create, and where I was met with greetings every morning and night from all members of the family, whether or not they spoke a word in English. Personally, my favorite part of the trip was attending the Japanese high school my host sister attended, and I remember that they were so excited to see an American student that they came from classrooms from different buildings and different grades just to hide their phones from their teachers and sneak in a selfie with me. So to this day, I keep in contact with my host family, and this wonderful, wonderful relationship is one I hope to never lose. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, City Council members. As mentioned before, my name is Clara Nakashiki, and I'd first like to thank everyone as the city, everyone who's watching, everyone here who's attended this meeting today, for allowing us to have these kinds of trips. I'd also like to first start by saying that this was an unforgettable experience. It was absolutely amazing. You know, meeting Japanese people, meeting my host students' friends, just meeting their family, and it was something that I think about each night and smile about while I'm about to go to sleep. And these pictures that you see up here, I did travel to Mount Miyajima, which is a very tall mountain, and I can safely say that my legs still hurt to this day, even though it was during the summertime. And, you know, as I said before, meeting his friends was one of the more memorable experiences because I still keep in contact with them. I still text them mostly every night when I try to, because different time zones, difficult. But yeah, met lots of different people. I participated in after-school clubs, and really, Japan is a very beautiful place, which I can't ever, and I will never forget. I remember bringing a little notepad and filled with, things I should say and, vocab that I learned, and I didn't use any of that. Mostly because I didn't have the time, and I just kind of went off of memory. Um, Definitely staying with my host family had a lot of very, very good memories and very funny memories. One of which I remember it took them a very good 5 minutes, at least 5 minutes, to explain to me um, where and what the dishwasher or the washing machine was. I had no idea, you know, where it was or what it was because they were speaking in all Japanese. I was like, I should probably remember this, but I didn't. So one of the more funny moments. But yeah, just thank you for everyone for allowing us to have these kinds of experiences, along with my fellow youth commissioners. They made this trip really an unbelievable experience, and especially it being my first international trip outside of even California, especially California. Um, it was definitely just an amazing experience. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Holly.
Hello, council members. My name is Mitali, and I'm the secretary of the Sister Cities Association. First of all, I want to say that I'm extremely grateful for this experience, and it is truly one of the most amazing trips that I've taken in my life. So I want to start off by telling you about my stay in Japan. So when I was in Japan, I had the opportunity to stay with two host families, one of which you can see on the left, and the other one is on the bottom right. So the first family that I stayed with, they had a 17-year-old daughter named Yuka, and both her parents were school teachers. And that was my first introduction to Japanese culture. And through their family, I got to try a lot of Japanese food. It was actually my first time trying sushi. And I was introduced to their culture. And although their houses are quite smaller than the houses that we live in right now, the technology that you can see around their house truly it's very efficient. They have a very efficient way of living, and they have automatic toilets, which I thought was kind of fascinating. And they they also have three types of tap water that comes out of their faucet. And so I remember it took them a very long time to explain to me what each of them was for. One of my favorite memories with Yuka was when we tried on a kimono at her house, and her mom told me about a Japanese string instrument, so that was very memorable. And also, like every teenager, I love to go to the mall. So when I was in Japan, I went to the mall a numerous amount of times. And it's actually quite like the malls here. And I was able to experience a photo booth. And the photo booths in Japan are called parikura, and it's very fancy compared to the ones that we have here. And with my second host family, they had a 17-year-old daughter as well, and her name was Nanaka. And her dad was an eye doctor. So while I was in Japan, I got to visit her dad's eye clinic. And her mom was a stay at home mom, but she loved to cook. So although I couldn't communicate with them in English, me and her mom were able to communicate through food. And she taught me how to make rice balls. And she had like a little translating device that she used to talk to me. So that was kind of fun. And also on the last day of my trip in Japan, I went with her family and her friends to Hiroshima, and I got to view the Peace Memorial and the museum, and that really opened my eyes to some of the things that Japanese people have faced in the past and how they've kind of united as a result of that. And finally, one of another favorite thing that I had was when I went to her school and I got to meet her friends, and I spent the day with them. And one thing that I found fascinating was they stay in one class for the whole day, and their teachers move around as opposed to here where we move to different classes. So I thought that was interesting. And this experience really opened my eyes to the teenage life in Japan, and that's something that I can relate to. And I also learned a numerous amount of things around along the way, and I'm very grateful for that. Thank you.
Good. Thank you, Matali.
I'm gonna tell you a little bit about my experience in Japan. I'm Surya Tolliver Jula,
And I would just like to say that I fostered a great appreciation for Japanese culture during my trip to Japan, and and when I was in Japan, my host family treated me as if I was of their own family. In fact, they treated me better than they treated me as if I was like the president that was coming to visit their house. And I don't think that I had time to relax and just like rest throughout the entire trip because it was so congested with activities that my host family planned for us. And so we went all around. We saw Matsue Castle. Um, uh, I went to a Japanese spa which was a different style than our regular spas here in America. And we also went 3 hours south to near Hiroshima to the Miyajima Temple on the last day. Um, all sorts of activities. I'm not going to list all of them that we did in Japan that filled up pretty much every minute of my time, even in cutting into my sleep time. So I didn't get to sleep that much, but it was such a great experience. Just it was so fulfilling to just get that experience and just take in all the aspects of Japanese culture and really internalize them and and appreciate appreciate the country of Japan and the traditions that it has, uh, all the various traditions. So thank you for this opportunity to go to Japan.
Thank you.
So Izumo is located in southern Japan, so we got to enjoy a lot of countryside and during the bus rides when we visited the temples and shrines, we got to see a lot of rice fields, and it was just very gorgeous, and it was very soothing and relaxing to be in that sort of environment compared to Silicon Valley where we're surrounded by buildings. So I think the landscape was a big part of our trip as well.
So, what's listed above is one of the, or a few of the many places that we actually had visited as a group together. Matsue Castle, Izumo Taisha, the Izumo City Hall, and we attended various tea ceremonies, which was very relaxing, I would say, especially since you got to taste authentic green tea, and it was very fun making it as well. Hana no Sato is a flower garden which was very, very beautiful. And I took lots of pictures. It might be later in the slide or later in the presentation, but like very beautiful place. Lots of yeah, the nature there is very nice to look at. It's very aesthetic. Hinomizaki Lighthouse. In the previous slide, I had we had actually all gone to the very top of it, and you kind of saw the ocean or the ocean there, and you saw on the left side there was a bunch of seagulls, which Japan calls the umineko, which is the cats of the sea. So it was kind of just cool to take your phone, zoom in on them, and see all the little seagulls that were just chirping about. And also, one of the very, very memorable experiences that we got to go to was the Izumo High School and Middle School, especially since the Izumo High School or the schools even just are so different from American schools. I know when they come here, they're always like so surprised and it's like, oh, we're so lax here. Like I want to stay here. So it's always fun to see the different side of the world and like what they experience. And I went there and I said the same thing that they said here. I want to stay here, just because it was so different, and I kind of felt like that it was a home away from home just instantly when I got there.
So in the following slides, we have pictures of all the places that we visited. So on the left, you can see the Taishacho Hinomiisaki Lighthouse. And so like Connor mentioned, we actually climbed to the top and we could see the landscape surrounding it. So you could see the ocean on one side, and then you could see the countryside on the other side. And then in the picture on the right, we have the Hanano-sato flower garden, which is a large garden that has different flowers, a botanical garden and a rose garden. And then Surya will continue with more pictures.
So on the left, on the far left, you can see the Izumo Taisha Cho Hinominsaki temple, and it was actually a shrine. But throughout our tour of Japan, our tour guides definitely thought it was necessary to bring us to like various different shrines, and I think we saw like 5 total, and it is something that as you see more of these shrines, you start to foster an appreciation for these shrines. So it was definitely a good experience. Plus the people that were guiding us in the shrines were very welcoming. In the middle is the Yasugi Furukawacho garden, and it was ranked in the top 10 most beautiful gardens, and they maintain these gardens every day basically, and keep it in perfect form. And there's just like glass, and we get to see out in the garden. We can't actually walk because we would obviously disturb it, but it was definitely a very beautiful sight, and it's also very famous. And then on the right is the Izumo Taisha. It's just a small part of the Izumo Taisha shrine. Uh, but this shrine, people say in Izumo, they say it's actually more popular than the city of Izumo itself. Just the shrine is the most popular one in Japan. So people from all over Japan go and migrate, like just to see the shrine itself. And they consider it. And the people, my host family actually said it's so popular that it is probably more popular than the city of Izumo, which is pretty.
Outside of Izumo, we also visited many places. So on the right, you can see that's a pretty famous site, which is the Miyaji-macho Shrine, so the famous gate. So on certain times of the day when the tide is high, there's water that surrounds the gate, but when the tide lowers, you can actually walk right next to the gate and touch it. And then, as we mentioned, almost all of our families went to see the Matsue Castle, which you can see on the bottom left. There was also another temple in Miyajima, which is right next to that. And then one of the most important sites that some of our families got to visit was the Hiroshima Peace Memorial. So we visited the museum, and it really portrayed the life of some of the victims of the bombing. And behind that, there was the Peace Memorial. There were flowers around it. And on the bottom, you can see a picture of the site that was originally bombed. So you can actually go look at that yourself. And right next to it, you guys have probably heard of the story of Sadako and the Thousand Paper Cranes. So that's a memorial to her. And surrounding that, there's a lot of different decorations that have been made with paper cranes. And then finally, on the right, you have the Murata Capacitor Company, and they make capacitors for various electronic devices. And then on the bottom is a robot that they also make. So that was kind of fun seeing.
The food. So I know all of us were constantly offered so much food, and we could never say no because it was so good. But I remember one night, I just reached over with my chopsticks and put something in my mouth, and it was quite good actually. But then my host mother informed me that that was cow intestines that I just consumed, and I've never had that before, but it was quite delicious. So I know that food was another way that we opened our eyes to the Japanese culture.
So as mentioned before, visited Japanese tea ceremonies, I believe 2 in particular. But the picture on the right, that is obviously the tea is not there, but on this little plate we had it kind of looks like a little marshmallow and a s'more thing. Did not taste like it, trust me. But um, one thing I do remember in particular was we had to cut it with that thick. We had to cut it into fourths. We we had to cut it into forts. So it was, kind of like an even consumption, and it was kind of like a sign of, I guess, tranquility. And as well as the tea, you 4 sips, and then the last sip you would finish the drink, and that was kind of cool, since I've never really been told how to eat. Well, other than growing up. But then the picture on the left, we had made the tea, made the green tea, and with that little whisk, we whisked in the cup while we put the matcha in, and that was just a cool experience, especially if you hadn't made green tea before. You just kind of just bought it in the store and hoped it tasted good. So a lot, a lot of what we gained was a lot of cultural understanding and just different kinds of people in Izumo, in Japan, especially since we did visit Tokyo, Hiroshima, and Izumo. It was a very fun experience, especially just as I mentioned before, it's just so different than America, and when you don't know what to expect and you don't know what's you're going into it, and you end up loving it, it's something you definitely want to tell all your friends and family while they're all together.
Add that on the top right, you can see we went to a temple, and this is a place. It was a shrine. This is a place I remember in particular just because of how beautiful the scenery was. It was just a top, uh, a top like this mountain, just with greenery surrounding, and you could just look out into the wilderness and just see all kinds of forestry and vegetation. It was really cool. And also, the man you see like right in the middle of that picture is actually uh, a Buddhist priest who runs the place. So it was really cool that we got to have one of like a really important member of Japanese religion to show us and tell us exactly what kind of traditions they practiced, and also guide us through the tea ceremony and meditation and all kinds of customs and traditions that were practiced in the shrine. And it was definitely a beautiful experience that I think all of us will remember. And yeah.
Yeah, we even made it to the newspaper article, and you can see Mayor Gilmore and her son as well. But overall, even though we did get lost a couple times at the airport, I'm glad we found our way back. So as a representative, as a representative of the youth commissions, I can express our gratitude. Um, Thank you so much for the constant support of our organization in previous events, including the Art and Wine Festival and the street dance, and we ask for continued support in the future. Thank you so much.
Thank you. That was a wonderful presentation. Okay, Margaret, how'd they get lost at the Izumo airport? There's only 2 gates, so how did they get lost? I want to know.
No, we didn't really get lost. It was more the bus. We had to catch certain buses. So, yeah.
No, but
Hana was a great resource because my Japanese is not so good.
no, I was just, 'cause I was with you for part of the journey, which reminded me by some of the photos up there. It just shows how valuable it is to have our students exchange with, especially Izumo, Japan. Mr. Yamamoto and all the group over there, they're just such wonderful and gracious people. And I think one of the gentlemen said that, yeah, they were programmed all the time. There was no time for sleep. That is absolutely true. But that it's out of the goodness of their hearts and what wonderful hosts they are. I mean, I've just not met such wonderful people in my life to go to Japan, and which made us really, look at how we host them when they come, and all of our sister cities. We were upping our game, and we're seeing the value of this. because as you heard from the mouths of these high school students, it's so valuable, and the world is getting smaller and smaller. You mentioned one of the priests, and that was, I think, the Temple of 1,000 Steps, which was so beautiful. That Buddhist priest had just been in Santa Clara, like less than a year before, visiting a friend at Santa Clara University, and his college roommate has a temple up in the Davis area. So that's what a small world this is. He just happened to mention that when we were there. But it's just such a wonderful program, Sister Cities, and we all need to really embrace it and support it, because they are experiencing lifelong memories here. And with the students that come over, I know next year, I think, here's our two Sister City representatives. We really need to, make sure that we're as gracious as they are with us and our students. Kathy, Debbie, I don't know if you have anything to say.
Thank you, Mayor. You're actually looking at two former presidents, and actually, I think I interviewed all of you for the trip. So I'm so happy to hear, as much as I got to hear why you wanted to go. Now I get to hear what happened on the trip. So it's a nice culmination of what started there back last. I think it was last spring that you were interviewed for the trip. But I'm sure Councilmember Davis will have a few words as well. But we've been to Izamo as well, and we've totally enjoyed everything that you got to enjoy. I got to climb all the way to the top of the lighthouse and got to visit Maya Jimacho, and went to the Peace Memorial, and climbed to the top of Matsui Castle. So I've had all those wonderful experiences, and my daughter was in Sister Cities as well and got to visit Izamo, and so she got to know exactly what you went through as well. And it's totally true. You've experienced something that you will never forget. You have formed friendships that you will never lose, and it's hopefully opened up a door of wanderlust that will never end for you. So congratulations, and I'm so glad to hear you had a wonderful time.
Thank you.
I'm glad you experienced everything. Did you guys get to take your quarter and throw it up at the Taishu into the, you didn't do that to make the wish? Do you know how hard it is to do that? I was there for 10 minutes. And I think Vice Mayor Mahan can attest to that, because we were trying to get that quarter up in the things to make our wish at the Taisha. The Matsumi Castle, did you get to go around in the moat at all? That's a cool experience. But you do have it very easy here. They clean their classroom at the end of the day. So I think you guys experienced that. Like, why are they cleaning the classroom? You have it a lot easier here. Yes, you do. But I'm glad that you enjoyed your time there. It's a wonderful experience. It's a different culture. Oh, tell me about the slipper thing. Did you make it from room to room, changing the slippers? No, I didn't think so. Yeah. It's a very different culture, but they want to give you everything that they can. And I know that every minute of the day you experience something, because they don't want you to sleep. It's true. It's very true. But they're very gracious people. They're very kind and loving people. And I'm glad that you got to see Hiroshima, because that's very dear to them. That, at a time in the war, and now we're together. So it's a very peaceful thing for them, and closure. But thanks for going, and I'm glad we have Vice President and Secretary here of the Youth Commission, and we will be supporting all your activities. So enjoy, and I'm glad that you had it, and I hope you get to go back someday, but I think you will with your host families. So, and Margaret, don't ever get lost again in the airport, girl.
Poor Margaret.
That was so
She did
funny,
a
poor
phenomenal
Margaret, I
job.
know. But thanks.
Councilmember Hardy, and then we'd like to take a picture with you up here with the council, if that's okay. Councilmember Hardy?
I just wanted to say it must be something really incredible to get Surya to put more than 2 sentences together. He's been my student last year and this year, and this is the most I think I've ever heard you talk. And if you think it's easy here, you haven't had Miss Hardy's class where you have to run across campus and not be late and get locked out. Right, Surya? Yes. So some of us are mean, but we care. But we're so excited. I'm so glad you had a good experience.
Thank you. So if you'd like to join us up front, we'd love to take a picture with you. And again, Margaret, thank you for being the chaperone. That's not an easy job, and you were an amazing chaperone. So thank you so much for what you've done. Okay, council? We can get a group picture.
One, or itch, knee, sun. One. Big smiles.
All right, do we have other business on this meeting, or are we gonna keep just going like this, right? All right. All right, now, all right, thank you all for joining us. All right, moving on to the other business. Next, we have the consent calendar. All items are approved with one motion. Are there any members of the council that would like to pull any items from the consent calendar? Councilmember Watanabe? 2C. And so that's action on the Santa Clara Convention Center fourth quarter financial status report. Okay, anyone else like to pull an item from the council? No, you continued that. All right, any member of the audience want to pull an item from the consent calendar for discussion? Staff? Okay, seeing none, is there a motion?
Motion to approve the balance of the consent calendar.
Thank you. Motion second to approve the balance of consent calendar. Please register your vote. And that passes unanimously. Okay, the next item we have is public presentations. Do we have any public presentations, City Clerk? Okay, one, Danielle Jennings, if you'd like to come forward, please. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, staff, and the public. My name is Danielle Jennings, and I am with Platinum Advisors, a consultant for the Valley Transportation Authority. The VTA has retained RSM to perform an independent study to evaluate VTA's governance practices. Platinum Advisors was retained to assist with the community outreach. I'm here tonight to invite the public to participate and provide feedback on how VTA is governing in relation to bus ridership, light rail, highways, bike and pedestrian pathways, congestion management, and countywide transportation planning. There are several platforms available for community engagement and participation that we would like to share. RSM will be hosting an in-person community meeting November 20th at 7 p.m. in the County Government Building, 70 West Heading Street, San Jose. They will also be conducting a virtual town hall webinar on November 21st. This will be a live interactive webinar open to the public and will allow for comments or questions. The webinar will also be recorded so that community members can watch at their convenience in any location. Also, a dedicated voicemail for members of the public to leave anonymous and confidential feedback. And all of this information will be posted on the city's website. A webpage and survey at vta.org has also been dedicated to this effort to provide more details and gain feedback. RSM's findings and recommendations will be presented at the December 17th Ad Hoc Board Enhancement Committee meeting. Further information also available on the VTA's website, and our team is presenting this information at every city council meeting in the county with the goal of promoting the in-person and virtual town hall meetings to gain maximum participation and community involvement. So we have shared these details with the city clerk to share publicly on the city's website, and we appreciate the opportunity to share this and partner with each of our cities throughout this assessment. Thank you.
Thank you. I was going to ask you if you shared that with our staff so we can put it on since it wasn't on the agenda, so
Yes.
that our public can be able to find it.
Yes, all the information will be on the city's website with the links to the webinar and dates and locations for each item.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you
very
so much.
Any other public presentations? I don't have any other cards. If you'd like to speak on something that's not on the agenda, please come forward. Okay, seeing none, next we're going to have our consent items pulled for discussion, and there was one item pulled by Councilmember Watanabe, and that's item 2C, which is action on the Santa Clara Convention Center fourth quarter financial status report.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, I was really happy to see this, the fourth quarter financial status report as part of our packet this week. However, considering Spectra just took over the convention center it seems like just yesterday, it was really amazing to go through the report and see the detail and of all the different events. And I was hoping that could get a better breakdown and maybe future information about how the convention center is doing.
I want to provide just a quick one-slide summary if you haven't had a chance to delve into the details of the report. And certainly if there's more information as part of the discussion, we can include that. The report does include the metrics that were included in the agreement. Just want to summarize that when you compare the city's general fund contribution to support the convention center operations as well as tourism, the annual contribution from the general fund to the chamber was roughly about $1.6 million. With Spectra, it's zero, and so there's an example there. But when you look at the performance, and this report is a transitional report in that the chamber was responsible for 9 months of the booking and for the operations of the convention center, and Spectra was responsible for 1 quarter. The year-end ended favorable at about $1.6 million, and about 52% of that is the result of revenue from Spectra in the fourth quarter. So things are looking really good with respect to our new operator, and hoping to continue this trend as well. So Councilmember Watanabe, you're right where we wanted you to understand in terms of the complexity of the report and the many numbers that are thrown at you.
Okay. And then the convention center will be coming to the council with a more detailed report in December, I believe?
We have some later discussion around activities for the destination marketing organization as well as other changes, and we'll be coming forward with additional quarterly reports. And we can continue to expand on the information that we provide.
Great. Thank you very much, and keep up the good work. So with that being said, just motion to note and file the financial status report for the Santa Clara Convention Center.
Second.
So we have a motion second to note and file this financial report. Any questions from the council? Any comments from the public on this item? Okay. Please register your vote. And that passes unanimously, noting Vice Mayor Mahan's absence from the dais. So 5. Okay, very good. Next, we have public hearing, general business. The first is item number 3, discussion and direction on the conversion of the Santa Clara Tourism Improvement District, the TID, established under the Parking and Business Improvement Area Law of 1989, to a TID established under the Property and Business Improvement District Law of 1994.
Good evening,
Hi,
Mayor,
Nancy.
Council. Nancy Thome, Assistant to the City Manager at the City Manager's Office. I'm here to provide the staff report on the direction, the discussion on the conversion of the TID. So today we'll be giving you a brief background, and we do have Civitas advisors here that will provide a presentation on conversion of districts. And then we will also take a look at what a conversion would mean for Santa Clara. So a brief background, the district was created back in 2005 under the 1989 law, and there was an ordinance established. It did establish the boundaries around the Santa Clara Convention Center, and currently we have 11 lodging businesses. The levy at the time that was approved was $1 per occupied room night, And in 1994, the state legislature passed the Property Business Improvement Law, allowing for additional provisions for districts created under this law. So we have been working with Civitas Advisors and also the TID, and Civitas Advisors really is the experts in districts and conversions. And so they've been working with the city and the hoteliers around educating us and providing some guidance around what this conversion process could mean for Santa Clara. So right now I'd like to introduce Kelly Rankin with Civitas Advisors, and she is going to give you an overview of tourism improvement districts.
Very good, thank you. Welcome, Kelly.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. As Nancy mentioned, my name is Kelly Rankin, and I am the consultant who has been hired from Civitas to assist in the Santa Clara Tourism Improvement District's conversion from the 89 to the 94 law. So I have a brief presentation for you this evening where I'll be going over the key components of the 89 and the 94 law, give you the brief overview of the steps to a conversion, and give you some examples of other districts who have chosen to convert from the 89 to the 94 law. So as you know, the 89 law allows for businesses to be assessed within a predetermined district boundary, ultimately forming an improvement district. City Council has the authority to form these districts and also appoint the advisory board who governs the district. These districts must renew annually as they have a one-year term. Under the 94 law, districts run similarly, but with some key differences. First to note is that the district can only be formed with 50% or more of support in a signed petition from the businesses being assessed. The district will now be governed by an owners association, a nonprofit corporation, guided by the management district plan, which is a legally binding and city-approved document, which outlines all of the services and budget parameters for the district. Also to note, the district can now have a 5-year term initially and 10 years upon renewal. Lastly, the district is required to comply with Brown Act and Public Records Act. So what does all this information look like side by side? Biggest thing to note is that we need the 50% or more of support from the assessed businesses via a signed petition. The district will now be governed by a nonprofit corporation under the guidance of the management district plan, also required to come every year and submit an annual report. Also noting that there is only one 30-day challenge period per term versus every year under the 89 law. Also the initial 5-year term and up to 10 years upon renewal. So a quick overview of our process and the steps to a conversion begins with hotel and local government outreach and consensus building, which will lead us to determining the district parameters and a service plan for the district throughout its term. Once all of that has been determined, we will draft the management district plan, which again is legally binding and city approved. Once that is all set, it leads us into our hotel petition drive. So we get our boots on the ground and get all of the hotels or businesses signing off in support of the district and where we need 50% or more. Once we have that support, we have 3 stops at City Council in order to get the approval to move forward with forming the new district. This ultimately leads to the natural expiration or disestablishment of the 89 district. And lastly, I wanted to leave you with some examples of other districts who have chosen to convert from the 89 to the 94. Out of these 14, these have occurred in about the last 10 years or so. And with that, I will turn it back over to Nancy.
Thank
Thank you, Kelly. So as you can see, there are differences in the districts that are established under the 2 different laws. Uh-oh, I think I just hit the wrong button. I hit the wrong button.
Can't help you, so I don't know.
Thank you, Jackie. What's that? Oh, okay, there we go. All right, I'll make sure I won't do that again. So the lodging businesses and the tourism improvement district are currently interested in establishing under the 1994 law, and they also have the desire to change the assessment from $1 per occupied room night to 2% of gross revenue of short-term rentals, and the short-term rentals would be defined as those as 30 days or less. So as Kelly had mentioned, if council so chooses to move forward with establishing a new district under the 94 law, it would follow in accordance to the district plan. And so what we wanted to do is provide you an overview of the key provisions in the district plan and how that would apply to Santa Clara. And a copy has been provided for you in your packet, and it's really as a reference. So Civitas has just been working with us to kind of give us a snapshot of this is what it could look like if council so decides to move forward. So in terms of governance, the current TID is governed by the TID Advisory Board, and those 11 individuals were appointed by City Council. They are comprised of the general managers of the 11 hotels in the current district. So under this 1994 law, the governance, the district would be operated through an owners association, which is the nonprofit organization. So we've had conversations with the TID Advisory Board, the hoteliers, and they do support the new Silicon Valley Santa Clara DMO to be the nonprofit organization to manage the affairs of the new district. And we'll be providing a staff report on the progress of the DMO after this presentation. This would require an agreement between the DMO and the city to administer the affairs. And as Kelly mentioned, there is required annual reporting to City Council on operations and progress. And then the DMO is also subject to the Brown Act and the Public Records Act. There are no proposed changes to the district boundary. The photo here is the same as it was initially established in 2005. Currently includes 11 hotels. And under the new district, any new hotels that open would automatically become part of the district and therefore subject to the assessment. Currently, the district assessment, as I mentioned, is $1 per occupied room night. The hoteliers have the desire to move to an assessment based on percentage, 2% of gross revenue. They really see this as a much more fair process, the larger hotels versus the smaller hotels, as the larger hotels would pay proportionately more into the assessment. And it's really the opportunity to increase hotel occupancy, overall tourism spending in Santa Clara, and fund sales supports programs and marketing efforts. The current revenue received from TID funds is approximately $800,000. And the estimated revenue would increase to $3.5 million annually, estimated, if that's at 2%. The collection method would not change. So currently, hotels submit the assessment when they submit the TOT to the city, which is done monthly. With the assessment, the city would receive the funds and then merely pass that through to the DMO. I did it again. No? So in council's discussion regarding the assessment formula, it's worth considering that, at the November 5th council meeting, there was discussion about taking a look at TOT for revenue enhancement in the future. And then we also put a brief chart here of the current TOT rate within the current district boundaries. So the TOT is 9.5%. There is a CFD assessment at 2%. And with the included, or if council approves at 2%, it would increase 13.5%. Budgets and services. Currently, the way when we collect money in the under the current district, City Council can direct the funding for those funds received. Under the 94, any monies received through the assessment need to directly benefit the businesses, the lodging businesses that are paying the assessment. So through the district plan, they would identify initiatives that would really be designed to increase overall visitation and room night sales. And the proposed budget that's included in the district plan is based on the 2% proposal. So if there was a change in that, that would then, if council decided not to go with 2% and something else, that budget would change. But we're going to show you at the 2%. And then funds would support future DMO operations without general fund contribution. So previously, the CVB was provided $1.5 million by general funding, and then they received another $800,000 through TID funding. So they had about $2.3 million to operate the CVB. So under this, you can see that the budget would potentially increase. So this is just an overview of the budgets and services. Majority of funding would be directed towards convention sales, incentive services, and marketing and communications. And this just provides you a snapshot again. These are in the district plan. It's provided a broad overview, but the details of the programming would really be determined by the CEO or the staff of the DMO. Currently, the district term is renewed every year. So under this new district, the new district could be renewed up to 5 years the first time and renewed up to 10 years. And the way that it's written in the plan, it aligns to the calendar year, but if council so decides to move forward, the staff would like to propose that this is aligned with the city's fiscal year, and we would make those adjustments. Something to consider for the district term, currently it expires on June 30th, 2020. So deciding on what council decides today, if you decide to move forward to convert the district, if the decision is to do it immediately ASAP, then we would need to look at going through the process to establish the new district and then going through a process to de-establish the old district. The other option is that the process could be aligned to begin the new district as of July 1st of the new fiscal year. In that sense, the TID term would just expire naturally and there would be no further action to disestablish the district. This provides you a summary between the 89 and 94 as it applies to Santa Clara. As I stated, the assessment method has been the same since it was established in 2005. Current governance is with the advisory board who continue to meet monthly, and this would change to the DMO who would manage through the guidance of the district plan. It is worth noting that the DMO does have 2 board members that represent the hoteliers, so that representation would still exist. The difference in assessment method, they would like to go to 2%, and then again, the annual revenue change. Also, the annual city fee would increase to approximately $75,000 to cover administrative costs. These are council's options. Alternatives for this evening is to provide direction to either proceed with the conversion of the district from the 89 law to under the 1994 law. Or if council so chooses, also we could continue the district as is under the 89 law. And we'd also like to receive some direction regarding the district assessment formula, and then also any other action as directed by council. So we're recommending that council consider the establishment under a 1994 law and do the conversion. And also we would like to receive direction on the district assessment formula. That concludes the staff report, so Kelly and I can answer questions if there are any.
Thank you. First, we have a question from Councilmember Davis.
Nancy, because I know you already did this once before, so you're doing it again. So I guess my first question would be, I definitely want to, move forward with the conversion. But the first thing was we kind of had a conversation about raising the TOT. And did you do like a bean count on that if we went up 3%? Because we just talked about it like last week. Mm-hmm. The 2% is already there, and that's what they want versus the $1. Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
Okay. So did you do any bean counting on 3% if we went in that direction to raise it higher? For them, assessment? Charging them 3% if TOT went up. That's what I'm kind of.
We haven't, but we can get that information.
Yeah, I would like you to ask them what they would think if that went to 3%, not 2%, if they could handle it. Because I understand the larger hotels are closer to the convention center. The smaller hotels seem to be a little further out, and I understand the reason for changing that because there's a distance for bookings, and the other thing is.
Can I get clarification? So 3% for instead of the 2%?
Right. I just wanted to see what the number was. The 75,000.
Are you referring to the TOT?
Yes.
Okay.
For them. No, I know we talked about the TOT. I'm just saying where it says the 1%, they want to convert to 2%. But what would they think of 3%? So
to have the assessment changed to 3%?
Yeah.
So let me clarify. So in the recommendation has the TOT right now at 9.5%.
Right.
There is the CFD assessment, which is at 2%.
Right.
And I can provide a little bit more detail about the breakdown of where we're at with CFD payments and fund balance. And then there's the proposed TID assessment, which they are proposing at 2%. So there is a tension between increasing the general fund TOT as well as establishing the 2% TID assessment. This is why we're bringing these two policy issues to the council at once, because then we do need to understand from an overall voter tolerance or voter support level, how sensitive the TOT is with the 2% for the TID added in. And so we'll need to do some community research on that, if this is a direction that the council would want
That
us to
was
go
my
in.
question. I wanted to know what they felt about that and where they landed. So, because I haven't talked, I don't talk to them, you do. I was just curious what they thought about that.
I think I would summarize that there is an understanding about the tension between the two, the TOT and the TID. However, a discussion around a TOT increase at 3% or 2%, there wasn't that type of discussion.
Okay. I just wanted to see how they felt, not. And then the other thing was, are they comfortable with going to our fiscal year versus their fiscal year, the TID?
I believe so. They
They're
do understand
okay
how
with-
it's aligned, because that's how the current district is, aligns with our fiscal year as well.
But they were okay going to that?
Yes.
That mode, okay. All right, those are just my only two questions.
Councilmember O'Neill, then Vice Mayor Mahan.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for the very interesting report and presentation. So my thoughts, and I want to dovetail a little bit. One of our special orders of business was, hearing about the BMX thing and, the fiscal impact. And so one of the things that I've always been a little unsure about were some of the, some of the analysis that we got back from our prior operators and contractors in terms of the CVB and the convention center, in terms of economic impact. And so by going to 2% TID, which I think kind of impacts our ability to be able to raise the TOT for the city's purposes, and I realize that this, as we heard, benefits the city. Are we at a point where we can do the kind of analysis to look at the kind of return on investment that we'll get by increasing this budget substantially and knowing that we're going to have more hotel nights and more dollars going through the convention center and Levi Stadium and all of the restaurants and all of that, that it's really a good investment for us, particularly if we do this, if we have to rethink increasing the TOT. Does that make sense?
It does, and that's one of the benefits about waiting for the fiscal year, is it allows for us to do some modeling and do some additional community research and bring that information back to the city council.
At this point, we don't really know, so we're not sure. We're hopeful, but we don't know. Of course, it's it's always a crapshoot.
Vice Mayor Mahan and Councilmember Hardy.
Yeah, so my question was similar, and it may not be something that's answerable tonight, but if we added 2% to our TOT tax in this area, plus the community facility district assessment, and we're looking at doing a general TOT increase citywide for revenue, which, may come back, will probably come back to us. How does that put us in competition with other nearby hotels? Now, I understand that this district does include, our higher end hotels. People can expect to pay a little bit more, but if we were to take all of this and add an additional TOT tax of 2%, we come up like having the same TOT tax as San Francisco or Los Angeles. And how does that compare with like North San Jose, where people may also stay for events and conventions in that area? Because it may not affect the individual traveler as much as it can have an impact on the big groups, the conventioneers who are looking for a deal, quite frankly, to bring a big group to a hotel in the area. So, I mean, it's something for us to consider. I think the conversion is a great idea. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm just worried about the numbers and how they may play out when we're still looking for general revenue increases, and TOT seems to be a good one for that.
As part of last week's, I think it was last week's presentation on the TOT, the range was, Santa Clara was on the lower range when it came to the TOT, and the high was at about 15%. At the time, the finance directors did state that other regional cities or surrounding cities were also contemplating additional increases for their TOT. And so right now, what we know is the highest is in Palo Alto at 15%. We'll be watching to see how high the surrounding cities go, to see that if even with a 2% increase in TOT and a TID assessment at 2%, are we still in the range of reason when compared against the surrounding cities? So that's more information that we'd want to continue to monitor and bring back to the council.
Thank you, Councilmember Hardy.
Well, that, for most part, that answers that. So if we talk about allowing the term to run out, then they would align with the fiscal year. And it would give us more time to look at that, because when I look at the recommendation, it was to talk about the conversion, which makes a lot of sense, but it said to provide direction regarding the assessment formula. I'm uncomfortable with making a decision at this point, not knowing what everyone else is going to do. It sounds more like a chess game.
So I think there's two parts, well, there's two parts here. There's one on accepting the 1994 law and the conversion, which is separate from the rate that will be assessed through the TID. So that's the two decisions that are before you this evening, is, and part of it is to receive direction on whether to proceed with the 94 law, and then the second part is on the 2%. And I'm hearing as if there's, the 1994 law is a thumbs up, and that the 2% is, we need more information.
So I'm in agreement to accept the conversion, and I didn't realize after, well, I read the report, but I didn't realize how this ties in with our discussion on raising the TOT and putting a potential ballot measure. Because when I look at that 13.5%, we were talking about possibly a 2% TOT, which would bring it to 15.5%. You actually put the chart in the staff report. So right now, Santa Clara with the CFD, we're right in the middle. But, and then the highest is, as the city manager said, Palo Alto of 15.5%. Down, and then Milpitas is at 14, then it jumps down to 12.5 for Sunnyvale. So this would certainly put us at the highest right now, not considering what people are looking at. But there's kind of two things. One is that tolerable for our hotel partners and others, and how will that affect, you know, what we do? And then there's the discussion of the TID assessment of 2%, leaving that, all of that additional monies into, you know, marketing and advertising that area, or going for a TOT ballot measure that would benefit the entire city. So I don't think we have that information, so I'm prepared to support going forward with the conversion. I think that's great. And then having our staff bring back more information on the pros and cons of what we do with TID versus TOT, yeah, TID versus TOT, and tolerance, all the Ts, tolerance. The tolerance level, not only for our hotel owners, but for our residents and our voters. What are they going to tolerate with this? And of course, at the end of the day, we want to make sure that, you know, the area is successful, that we're able to market it successfully for all of our operations. So maybe, is there a motion, City Council, that we move with the first half and not the second half?
Can I just ask one more
Councilmember
question?
O'Neill. Councilmember O'Neill.
Okay, I'll make I have a question, but I'll first make a motion that we approve the conversion to of our CVB to the Santa Clara Tourism Improvement District based on the 1994 law. and that we hold off on the decision on the assessment. And my question is, how many other cities in the county have this kind of district? Is everybody going to be, is it just because like we have a convention center and San Jose has a convention center? Are we the only ones that have this?
Don't have an exact number in the county. I can say there's 110 in California overall, and a guesstimate, I would say about 20 in the Bay Area.
Okay, great. All right, thank you.
We'll bring that information back as part of our return response.
Okay, I'm going to go with Councilmember Watanabe because she hasn't spoken, and then back to Councilmember Davis.
Thank you. I support the motion, and all I wanted to add was that, I mean, I concur with the concern with, the increase, but at the same time, I see the benefit. I mean, when we were just at the convention, the Long Beach Convention, one of the Helen Putnam Award winners actually, the winners won as a result of money that was used from their TID, and it was actually up in Napa. It was the city of Napa won the award, and when I spoke to them, and how they raised the money to put on this display of artwork, and it was in their downtown, and they said they used money from their TID, and I said, well, we have a TID. So, I mean, there's definitely benefits, but I agree, I agree with moving forward, with the law, but at the same time doing an assessment to make sure that we're moving in the right direction in terms of the district assessment. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Davis, do you have any other comments? No, I was going to make the motion. Okay. So seeing no other comments, is there any member of the public that would like to speak on this? If so, I don't have any cards. Please come forward. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, staff. Joe Eustace from the Hilton in Santa Clara, representing both the TID and the DMO, members on both of those boards. We're very excited about this opportunity to have additional funds to market and promote the area. We think it's money well spent and collected on behalf of the hotels. There's a lot of exciting things that we probably haven't been able to share with you yet, and I'm sure staff, when it's appropriate, will share some. But we expect to be able to track a lot of the returns on the investments that we make for marketing and promotions, working with Spectra and the members of both boards. We're setting booking guidelines for the amount of room nights that would cause a group to be able to book in advance, how far in advance they can, what the additional food and beverage spend would be for their events. So a whole process is being set up to work and support the city and the promotion and to collect more funds, because that's basically what we're all after. So, and remember that part of this process also is removing a significant amount of money that the city used to dedicate to the convention center and the operation. So taking that away will allow you to have also more money. So maybe when we talk about all of the options, that can be something that's mixed in. But we think our owners will be very supportive of this and help us to be able to fund the city and promotion. And yeah, we can do a lot of things with the TID as long as it meets the guidelines that the city sets. Thanks for your time.
Very good. Thank you for those comments. Anyone else? Okay, very good. We have a motion and a second to at least move ahead with the conversion part. City Manager, do you know when you'll get back to us on the other part of this?
We will come back in January.
Okay. All right, very good. Thank you. Please register your vote. And that passes unanimously. Thank you very much, and thank you for the report. Nancy and Kelly, or are you the next one also?
The next
okay,
one
very good.
also.
So the next item we have is an update on the formation of the new Destination Marketing Organization, DMO. All of our acronyms we need to learn now,
Yes.
DMO entity.
So we're actually very excited to provide this update on the DMO. A lot of work has been happening since August. The DMO currently does have a business name, and this had to be established to complete the bylaws and associated paperwork. And so the business name is the Silicon Valley Santa Clara DMO. It incorporated as a California nonprofit mutual benefit corporation in August. And the city entered into an initial fee agreement with outside counsel to help establish the DMO. And so that included preparing and filing the articles of incorporation, drafting and finalizing the bylaws, provided an overview to the board members of their fiduciary duties, and also drafted and finalized the conflict of interest policy for the DMO. A virtual office has been established, and that address theirs is at TechMart through an agency that manages there. So the DMO can receive mail. There is ongoing conversation about establishing office space at the convention center, and so that conversation is ongoing. They have established a board of directors, and so the group of 8 individuals began meeting in August of 2019. There were several meetings that happened during the month of August, and the first official meeting actually happened on September 23rd. And when I say official, that's when the corporation bylaws were adopted by the outside counsel as the sole incorporator and formally adopted by the board. They also nominated and elected the officers of the board. And currently, as council approved 9 seats for the board, there are 8 that are filled. And the last one, there is a qualified candidate identified, so that conversation is ongoing, and hopefully the next update will have that position filled to report back on. Wanted to just provide you a list. Here are the list of the board of directors, along with their terms. They established that at the last meeting on October 28th. They all volunteered for the terms, which is really nice. We didn't have to go through a draw process, so they all volunteered for their terms. So to date, they did adopt the conflict of interest policy, and there's just a couple outstanding, but the board members do also sign a conflict of interest policy statement, which they would need to do annually, and we would file that. They've established the audit committee, and that is comprised of 3 of the board members. They've established their meeting schedule for the calendar year 2020. And the last meeting there is actually a very good conversation around the mission, the vision, and also what the outward-facing name of the DMO should be. So we went through a process working closely with our consultant, Joan Lang-LaSalle, where we solicited some feedback from all the board members in terms of kind of a brainstorm session of what they would like to see in the mission and vision, and also with the outward-facing name. And so with the help of JLL, really comprised that and came back to the board to have a discussion and hopefully create a short list of what they would like to see. And so we're hoping to finalize the mission and vision at the next board meeting. They are also currently assessing corporation insurance needs, and so again, with the assistance of JLL, is providing guidance in terms of the initial insurance that the nonprofit needs to look at. And then they have also approved the final draft of the CEO job description and appointed a search subcommittee. So that search subcommittee will really help when they've shortlisted the final candidates and bring it down to the top 2 or 3 to bring back to the rest of the board. Our next steps, the city, we will continue to update the board on the progress of the TID conversion. That needs to align as they move forward. We are also working on establishing a funding process with the city for the use of TID funds. So that kind of ties into the next one, where they're in the process of executing a fee agreement with Theuts Law to continue legal services for the next year, at least. And so we need to establish the funding mechanism to allow the DMO to be able to expend out of those funds. Once we have the agreement with the outside counsel, they will apply for nonprofit exempt status. And then there will also hopefully begin the process of recruiting and selecting the executive director, and then selecting the insurance provider. And that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, I have a couple of questions. So you said you're in the process of doing a search for the executive director?
They have reviewed the CEO description, and so the search has not started yet.
When is that search going to start?
I think JLL currently has proposed in December or January, so we still have some internal processes to review before that can launch.
So I'm actually thought you'd have someone close by now. So can you let us know when it's going to start and how long it's going to take, and then report back to us in like 90 days? I'm hoping that we get somebody on board right away. It's time. Yeah, it's definitely time. So I want to make sure we're on top of that. Other than that, I don't have any questions. Any other council members? Oh, Councilmember Davis.
Nancy wants to know how.
Yeah, microphone.
Microphone.
Yeah.
We still have the vacancy for the tech industry. Why wasn't that filled yet?
I think you already have
I had
somebody.
an opportunity to speak with the potential candidate, and her employer needs to approve the opportunity to participate as a board member.
Okay, and that will come back to us shortly.
We're waiting to hear from the person's employer. I also just want to mention that there has been a slight delay with this job description because there's an interest in, as we advertise, or as the DMO advertises for the position, that we can provide clarity to the potential candidates as to whether this is a TID funded based on 1994 law or 1989 law. And there was a lot of, I sat in or overheard at least 2 or 3 different conversations about that. And now that we have some certainty in terms of where the council's coming from, that is something that we can update the potential candidates about.
Well, we always considered we've always considered an executive director of some nature for the TID, that it was going to be funded in some way or another. Was there a question that it wouldn't be funded and there was going to be no executive director? I don't understand.
Yes, wanting to know source of funds as to whether an executive director would be signing up under the 1989, which has a different administrative process, as well as the formula distribution. So we'll have to return that, saying that with potential candidates that that's unknown. An executive director would want to know whether they're dealing with an $800,000 budget or one that's more lucrative in order to accomplish the mission. And so there were discussions around the job description, is getting more information so that potential candidates had full transparency.
Okay, so that's all cleared up now, so we can hire someone, get someone on board. Thank you. Okay, so did you make a motion?
Yeah, no, I'll make a motion to note and file the report. Thanks, Nancy.
Could you also please add that we hear back within 90 days about the hiring of the executive director?
And a friendly amendment to hear back in 90 days about the executive director.
Thank you. Motion second. Any other discussion from council? Okay, any member of the public like to speak on this? No? All right. Thank you, Nancy, very much. A lot of hard work putting this together. Thank you. Okay, please register your vote. And that passes unanimously. Thank you, thank you. Thank you, city staff, for that. Next, we have presentation, discussion, and direction on the TAP International Financial Audit titled Contract Closeout Review, Convention and Visitors Bureau. Welcome, almost last on the agenda. Thank you for your patience.
Greetings, Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members. Good to see you again. My name is Denise Callahan. I'm principal of TAP International, and I'm here to present the results of the contract closeout review that we conducted on behalf of the city. The overall purpose of the contract closeout review was to determine whether or not city funds were properly spent and supported in accordance with the requirements specified in the agreement between the city and the local Chamber of Commerce, who operated the Convention and Visitors Bureau, which we'll call the CVB. Now, a contract closeout audit is different from a performance audit. A performance audit assesses the efficiency and effectiveness of operations, programs, and services. When you conduct a performance audit, you have to apply generally accepted government auditing standards, which we refer to as the Yellow Book, and it governs the audit process. Under a contract closeout review, that type of audit is really a type of internal audit. And when you conduct an internal audit, you have to apply international internal auditing standards, which we commonly refer to as the Red Book. There's the Yellow Book, Red Book, Green Book, Orange Book, and it all governs different types of audits that you conduct. And I'll refer back to the Red Book after my presentation because the audit process is a little bit different from a performance audit. For the scope of work that we conducted for the city under this contract closeout review, there were 8 different activities. And when you sum the results of the 8 different activities, we found that there are reimbursements that are likely needed from various funding sources. From the contractor, about $560,000. From the CVB reserves, which is in the possession of the contractor as well, $146,000, and then the TID reserves of about $5,000. Now I'll walk you through each of the 8 activities. I'll be brief because the shorter that I explain this, the easier it is to understand. So the first activity that we conducted was to determine whether or not the contractor spent all of the city funds under the agreement. And in this case, we looked at a 4-year period, and we found at the end of the 4th year that there was $448,000 in available city funds that still needed to be spent by the contractor. We recommend that the city should consider whether or not it wants to pursue that collection, and we made that recommendation because there is a nuance to this. Under the agreement, it was a not to exceed type of an agreement. When we see those words as an auditor, not to exceed, it means that you can't exceed that amount, and if you do, the $1.5 million roughly that the city was remitting annually to the contractor under the agreement. If you exceed that amount, then it's really up to the discretion of the city if it wants to pay those additional expenditures. In this case, they didn't spend all those funds. They didn't exceed the annual allocation by the city. They underspent. But the funds were already remitted under the agreement, because under the agreement, it was 12 monthly installments that was remitted to the contractor in the form of $1.5 million annually. So this is why we said you need to consider whether or not you want to collect those unspent funds, because typically under a not to exceed contract, you don't have this issue of unspent funds, because billing is done in arrears where after services are rendered, then you invoice. In this case, they weren't billing in arrears, that the city was on a monthly basis routinely allocating their installment to the contractor. So that's why we recommended that you consider it, pursuing that collection. The second activity that we performed under the audit was to look at how overhead expenses were allocated by the contractor. When we looked at how the contractor allocated overhead expenses to the CVB, we actually found that the contractor actually underallocated expenses under its current practice. But when we looked at how overhead charges should have been allocated under standard practice using full-time equivalents and basically the number of employees that you have on staff, we found that the contractor was overcharging the CVB or over-allocating expenses to the CVB. So we recommend that the city should seek reimbursement for the contractor, but we felt that you should integrate the 2 methods, and we came out with a net result of about $50,000. Now, the third activity that we performed under the contract closeout was to look at how revenue was allocated. As you know, the CVB, they would sell tickets from area attractions and amusements to the general public. And when that revenue was collected, the contractor had allocated that revenue between the chamber, or between the contractor and the CVB. In this case, we found that the contractor was relatively accurate in its allocation of the revenue and had underallocated about $700 to the CVB, meaning that the CVB should have been allocated a little bit more money than it was. The fourth activity that we conducted was to look at the credit card purchases by the CVB. We examined over $300,000 in credit card purchases, and there we found about $53,000 in expenses that were either not allowed under the current agreement, or they were questionable, or we just couldn't verify the expense based on the information available. The agreement is very clear in terms of what can be spent and not spent with the city's funds, and it's very clear in terms of the types of expenses that they're expecting support for when expenses are incurred. We did note in terms of the types of expenses, we noted repeated repair of personal cell phones, purchase of an Apple iWatch, cell phone supplies, lots of cell phone supplies. Dinners with clients, the agreement is very clear that no dinners are to be, money's not to be used for dinners. We found expenses for administrative lunch and dinner meetings. We also found that contractor-related expenses were paid for by the CVB funds. We also found lots of gift cards and gift-related expenses that we believe needs further review by the city. And also the gift cards, we recommend that the city return those gift cards to the merchants. There's about $1,200 in gift cards, I believe, remaining. The fifth activity that we performed was to look at monthly invoices that the contractor submitted for reimbursement. At the time, as I explained earlier, the contract was a not to exceed, and under a not to exceed contract, you expect to see billing in arrears. For 4 months, the contractor was actually doing that at the request of the city. So the city asked us to look at the accuracy of those monthly invoices, and we generally found them to be accurate. There was a difference of about $200 that we will talk about in the next slide. So for the sixth activity that we performed, it was looking at another year in terms of whether or not fiscal year 17-18 had any unspent funds for for the contract for that year. So you heard me mention under finding 1, we looked at 4 years. Under this finding, we looked at another year, a 5th year. And we basically found that the contractor did exceed its annual allocation of about $1.5 million. And it was when the city opted to terminate the contract, and it was that at the end of the fiscal year, the contractor decided to provide year-end vacation payouts for the CVB employees, and that led to the cost overruns. For the 7th activity that we looked at what happened after June 2018 at the end of the fiscal year to look at that 2-month transition period. And here the city agreed to provide the contractor an additional $80,000 in revenue to help with that transition of the CVB employees. When we looked at that expenditures, we found that the contractor had actually exceeded the $80,000 by about $78,000. But we did find that those expenditures were allowable under the agreement. They were primarily for payroll. In our review, or as part of the agreement for the $80,000, the contractor was supposed to provide a reconciliation of how that $80,000 was spent. At the time of our review, they did not provide that reconciliation to the city, but the contractor did provide us, the auditors, with information that we can use to help reconcile the $80,000. But in that documentation that they provided, the contractor provided a documentation for another $20,000 that was outside of that original $158,000 that we believe should not be paid because it was outside of the purpose of the $80,000 agreement. It was for management fees, accounting, and auditing expenses, which the city did not receive an audited financial statement for the CVB that year, and other technical upgrades. So the last activity that we performed was to look at some invoices that were submitted by the contractor to the city for TID expenses. And so when we looked at those TID expenses, we looked at them fairly thoroughly with all the documentation supported by the contractor. And of the $68,000 that we reviewed, about 5,000 was allowable, and we were unable to support another 63,000. And most of that had to do with payroll-related expenses. And the issue was we just couldn't verify the payroll expenses in their accounting system, or whether or not the employees actually worked during that period. They're TID employees, not CVB employees. So that was the issue there. Now let's talk about the Red Book. When we completed our audit activities, the Red Book requires that we communicate the findings, the results, to, in this case, the auditee, which was the city and the contractor. So we met with both the contractor and the city, and we discussed the results in detail. For the contractor, we even provided them with our working papers to let them have time to review, and if they can give us additional supporting documentation, we'll be happy to review it. During that meeting, they also provided comments where we incorporated into the draft report as appropriate. Now, the second issue under the Red Book has to do with agency comments. We are required under the Red Book to request formal agency comment on whether or not, in this case, the city agrees with the recommendations or disagrees with the recommendations. Because the recommendations were directed at the city has to provide formal agency comment on basically their opinion on whether or not they agree or disagree with the recommendations. And we are required to include that into the final report. And so this concludes my presentation. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you very much. We'll start with Councilmember Davis and then Vice Mayor Mahan.
Mayor, I wanted to
yes,
make a
City
couple
Manager.
comments. So as page 30 in the report, you have city staff's response to each of the recommendations. I'd like to just add, for purposes of this evening, because this is a Red Book audit and our responses do not provide the full detail in terms of corrective action plan or any other recommendations. We just simply agree with the calculations, with the exception of one where we recommend that the $1,200 worth of gift cards, that we not use the staff time to go and try to get cash value, that we just find a way to make them benefit the public's interest. I do want to acknowledge that given the sensitivity of the findings of this audit, that you really have two options. One is to note and file the report, which would mean that you would take no action, just acknowledge the outcome of the report. The other, as presented in the recommendation, is that you would direct the further determinations to be made in closed session under the category anticipated litigation. I do also want to acknowledge that I did have the opportunity to meet with the Chamber earlier today. They would like to have follow-up meetings to go through the recommendations with staff. And if that is a possible third action, is that if you do refer the item to closed session, the Chamber has requested the courtesy, and the CEO is here, as the courtesy of allowing for the Chamber to put their information before staff so that the council could take an informed set of actions based on their input and their perspective.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Davis and Vice Mayor Mahan.
So Denise, when you talk about contractor, is that the Chamber of Commerce?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, just for clarity. Okay. To go along with the city manager, I definitely wanted to make a motion to move this to a closed session to discuss, a possibility of litigation or whatever. But being that you spoke with Nick, maybe we need to go to the closed session and have that conversation, because when I read this report, the thing that jumped out at me, and this, I don't even know where this even came from. Zorro Tools is an online industrial supply and business product based in Chicago. And they had $5,000 worth of tools that they purchased. And in your report, it says they don't know where it went. Like, there's no backup material as to who purchased it, where it came from, or whatever. So I would really like to know, I mean, Nick, you're here, so I would really like to have some explanations on some of these things, because we have Home Depot and Lowe's. Why are we buying tools online and spending $5,000? It was like, what are they building? So anyway, I just wanted to kind of move this into a closed session, and we can get more information from, for them to answer this, because some of these charges don't have documentation. So it's kind of like what you dug up is amazing to me. I mean, I've never seen so many Starbucks cards in my life. The dinners, you were clear that they were allowed to do breakfast and lunch and no dinner, but there was also a lot of parties that were paid for, like $1,300 here. So I'm just really concerned that maybe we need to take this off the dais and go into closed session on this one. So that's my motion.
Okay, that's also staff recommendation.
It's staff recommendation.
I just put a chart up here just as a easy closeout amount to follow, so that the range of the dollars under consideration for council decision are anywhere between 411,000 to upwards of 579,000, or almost $580,000.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Mahan?
Thank you. My question has to do with key findings, number 6 and number 7. Is the $57,885 mentioned in both those the same figure for the same purpose? Am I reading that correctly?
Can you repeat the question and provide a little bit more information on your concern?
The 57, it's a pretty simple question. Finding 6 shows that there was $57,885,000 spent.
Correct.
And then finding number 7 has that same figure. Is that the same figure for the same purpose in both those findings? In other words, it's not being doubly counted.
For finding 6, when we looked at for that one fiscal year, whether or not there were any available unspent funds, there was 57,000 that exceeded the annual allocation to the contractor. Under finding 7, that had to do with the $80,000 additional financial supplement provided to the chamber by the city. And then they exceeded that by 158,000, so it was $78,079. So I don't see,
So what was the
unless I'm missing something.
What was the $57,885 spent under finding number 7? What was that purpose for? Was it, in finding 6, it shows clearly it was for the CVB employees at fiscal year end. What was this exact same amount in finding 7? What was that for? Or is it the same number? Is it the same purpose?
On the recommendation, are you talking about the recommendation?
No, I'm talking about the number.
Okay, I'm seeing different numbers.
Right. Yeah, thank you, Teresa. Yeah.
The 50 said we combine, for one of the recommendations, we combine finding 6 and finding 7.
That's what I'm asking. Okay, so it's the same number for the
Yeah.
same purpose.
Yes. It's different, yeah. Yeah, different time periods. That's the issue.
But it
Yeah.
happens to be the exact same figure?
I think there's some confusion.
Yeah.
Vice Mayor, I think what she's trying to say is that that blue recommendation box is referring to finding 7 and finding 6. I think
Yes,
that's
if
what
that's the
Ms.
case,
Callahan is saying.
Right. That's what I'm
Yeah,
understanding.
so I think.
Yeah, okay, thank you. And then just to the maker of the motion, did that include the city manager's statement that we would also give the chamber a chance to respond directly to the city for some of
Yes.
these things? Okay, thank you.
Okay, let's see. Councilmember Watanabe?
Thank you, Mayor. Has there been a second on your motion?
I didn't hear one.
Oh, well, I was going to second it then, because you did make the amendment about including the city manager's request.
Okay,
Yep.
do you have comments?
Yeah, yes,
Okay.
yes, Mayor. No, I just wanted to add comments as well. That I'm glad that we're going to bring this to closed session because there are a lot of, I have a lot of concerns about the list of questionable expenses that you provided, and I went through them, and people ate well, and particularly Piatti's and Il Fornaio, and on the city dime, basically. So I have a lot of concern about that, and even monies being used for donations, to make donations, and one of which was, I think, even the Schools Foundation that I saw. So I'm glad that we're going to bring this back and look into it further and get more information. So thank you for the detailed report.
Okay, anyone else on this? Sorry, I knocked myself out of this here. Was there anyone else? Because I can't find my thing. Okay, I just wanted to make a couple comments. First of all, Denise, thank you so much for the audit. We've been waiting a while for this. I find it extremely disturbing that this has happened, and I look at the years that you looked at, and to think there were 30 years that this possibly was going on, and I think of the potential millions of dollars of public funds that were spent, incorrectly. This is over $500,000, of which I want to make sure that we'll be in closed session. We'll discuss this, that the public is fully reimbursed for all of this. And I have a question. City Manager, you said you met with the Chamber of Commerce and they want to provide information. Now, they've had this report. They've had other reports. They have told us over this last, I think, a year at least. How long has this been since this has been going on? They want to provide more information. I mean, at what point? They have been supposedly asked to provide information for a long, long time. Like, what information are they going to provide that the auditor hasn't asked multiple times, the city hasn't asked for multiple times? What additional information are they going to provide that they haven't provided already? Have they said what that's going to be? Because given they were given multiple opportunities to provide information to the city and to our auditor multiple times. So what are they waiting for? Because I don't want to stop our process because we're waiting, because we're going to continue to wait for false promises that they're going to provide information that they should have provided, and we wouldn't have had this audit if they have something different. So what were the representations that they made to you of information they're going to provide?
They received the audit last Monday, I believe, and the packet and everything went out on Thursday. So I think there was a short turnaround time to allow for them to respond. Nick is here, and what I heard from him earlier today is that they did want to respond to some of the findings and offer their perspective and just have a dialogue.
Okay, so
certainly here
before,
if
it
there's-
wasn't this short turnaround time of a week that they've been asked for information. Haven't they been asked for information throughout this whole process?
Yeah, I can't respond in terms of the specifics. It was a less than a half an hour conversation, but Nick is here in case there's anything more to offer. Certainly willing to sit down with him and bring that to you in closed session so that the council can consider, but I can't answer in detail the question that you're asking.
Well, I know that we've been asking for many months for information, and we're still waiting, so maybe we can hear from the Chamber of Commerce about the information they're ready to provide us. And when? Nick, would you like to speak? You don't have to. I mean, we're just asking. I want to hear about this information. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Nick Caspar, Silicon Valley Central Chamber. We do support City Manager Deanna Santana's recommendation for us to bring this to closed session and allow us time to work with staff to come work towards a resolution with this. One example of information that we'd like to discuss was finding number 7, I believe it was. the not-to-exceed contract on, was it for the 80,000? That money was used for CVB's salary and salary-related expenses. And I believe per the auditor's scope, it said that it was a not-to-exceed contract. And so it was used appropriately, as stated in the audit, for salary and salary-related expenses. And that was the direction that we received from council. And so we would just like the opportunity to work with staff and present all the information that we have to come to a resolution on this. I think the chamber has been working with the city for with the past 6 months on a couple of initiatives, and I think it's going very positive, and we'd like the opportunity to continue to work with the city to come to a resolution.
So you're going to present information on finding number 7, is that?
There's a couple
Okay.
different things that we have, yes.
So do you know when you're going to present this information?
As soon as we can get something on the calendar.
Okay, thank you. All right. So we have a motion and a second to bring this to closed session and let the city manager continue discussion for waiting for information. And we have a second on that. Would any member of the public like to speak? I think we don't have anybody left. Okay. Please register your vote. And that passes unanimously. Thank you very much. And thank you to the auditors. Appreciate it. Appreciate your good work. All right, next we have reports of members and special committees. Councilmember Davis.
Thank you, Mayor. Microphone is on, yay, okay. November 7th, I attended the Santa Clara County Emergency Operation Area Council. I'm appointed by the Cities Association for this regional committee. We were updated on the power outages that were declared by PG&E. Dana Reed, Director of Office of Emergency Management, reported that 2 public safety power shutoffs that they call PSPS occurred on October 9th through the 10th. The discussion was based on the readiness of the affected areas and impacted persons with medical needs and the financial impacts to the cities. Lessons learned were training of EOCs in cities to provide better communication. San Jose reported a $3 million shortfall of services with electrical shutoff. And we also got an update on the financial losses from, we'll be getting an update on the financial losses from local businesses. I had expressed concern about this being the new normal, and Chair Wasserman suggested that we send a letter to the governor expressing the impact of the PG&E shutdowns had on the South Bay residents and the businesses. So what they want to get out of this is more advanced warning is needed to communicate with these impending shutoffs. And our chief, he's not here, our fire chief, Ruben Torres, is part of the committee also. And we had to sit there and say we were from the city of Santa Clara, and it didn't affect us. And it was hard to sit there to listen to these other cities that were totally impacted by the shutdown and the loss of food and people with these medical needs. It was pretty sad to hear all this information. But going forward, they learned their lessons, and they're going to hopefully, we can get out of the fire season, but with the warmer and drier air right now, it will be extended to probably maybe into December. They're not really sure. But as soon as the first rainfall comes, we'll have probably a better clue as to what's going to happen. But we are lucky here in Santa Clara. We are blessed that we have our own electric utility. So that is just my report from the EOC.
Okay, thank you. Other council members? Anybody have anything? Councilmember Watanabe.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to say that I attended the CARE 25th Anniversary Gala dinner on Saturday evening with my husband, and I was able to go in Councilmember O'Neill's stead, and it was really a lovely evening, and many electeds were also in attendance, including Congresswoman Anna Eshoo, who spoke on behalf of the electeds that were there. I think they said there were about 35 electeds, and we are just very fortunate, to have a wonderful relationship with CARE and to be able to help them celebrate this occasion. And also, we've got a wonderful relationship with the Muslim Community Association as well. So it was a real wonderful testament to the support of the both organizations, and over, I think, 1,400 people were in attendance. So it shows that they're definitely cared for, and they also give back so much in terms of advocacy and support for immigrants, and just a wonderful resource to have in our community and in the county. So it was very nice to be there. So thank you.
Great, thank you, Councilmember Watanabe. Any others? Councilmember O'Neill.
And thank you very much for filling in for me that night. So as was mentioned earlier, we about VTA looking and seeking input from the community about, basically about board governance. This is one of my initiatives as the board chair this year, where we've been undergoing a lot of very serious looking at how the organizations run, and as I like to say, sometimes quoting Pogo, we have seen the enemy and it is us. And so, much to the kind of the chagrin of some of my other board members, when I say a lot of the issues, I think, come from the way the board has governed over the years. And partly it's because the board members all are very busy, council members or supervisors and other entities, and whether VTA can get enough of their time. So I do encourage people to go to the VTA website. I mean, we're doing a lot to make sure, everything we can think of, to make sure to give people from the community a chance to be very honest with us. So there's, like I said, there's a webinar, there's an in-person meeting, there's a phone line, there's an online survey, there's social media and all that. And the other thing I want to say too is that everyone be watching those people who maybe haven't used transit before. Our new service plan, the first time we've done a redesign in the entire lifespan of VTA, the new bus and light rail plans are going to start on December 28th. And in conjunction with it's been redesigned to maximize the use of BART. So for those of you who are currently transit riders, please check your current lines to see if the timing has changed, because a lot of the more popular lines are going to be, the buses are going to be running more frequently. So we're trying to get to what they call a 90-10 frequency model. So check that. And if you haven't ridden the bus before because you say, oh, it doesn't, if I miss it, I have to wait 45 minutes, we'll give it a try because it should be there in 15 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, moving on, city manager, executive director reports.
Have an update on the beta website testing. I'm going to invite Lenka up to present.
Put all of our tags on.
Well, good evening, Mayor, council members. I'm Lenka Wright, Director of Communications. And the website redesign project is now in the beta testing phase, and the project is co-led by the Communications Division within the City Manager's Office, along with the Information Technology Department. Now, before you, you see members of the team who are responsible for where we are today with the beta website. And these are members of our web users group, which represents all departments throughout the city. And this project certainly touched every city department. Now, I want to recognize all of these staff members who've been working diligently and thoughtfully in building a better city website for the community and other stakeholders. So as we're working to build a redesigned website, we're looking to deliver on our project goals. And namely, what you'll find on the redesigned beta website is a fresh, engaging, responsive website design and interface. And this includes implementing a new look and feel for not only the city website, but we also designed 3 sub-sites, and these are namely for Silicon Valley Power, SVP Fiber, as well as Santa Clara City Library. And the new sites also feature responsive design, which in other words means that the viewing experience is adjusted depending on the device that you use. So for a desktop user, you'll have a different experience than you would on mobile. So we were optimizing that experience in contrast to our current website. And this is something that we heard a couple years ago when the project began, when we did outreach to the community about what they would like to see in a new city website. Now, also, we have revamped and improved the search functionality. We are continuing to work on improving it, and it actually gets smarter the more you use it. So as certain search terms are entered, the system looks at those and further improves the results that you get. And of course, staff will be working behind the scenes to further improve that functionality. And also, we're improving accessibility to people with disabilities in compliance with web content accessibility guidelines and Section 508 of the Rehabilitation Act. And I will note that there is a correction that's needed in the written report, that there was a typo. It should be WCAG, not with an S. And so where are we now? We are nearing the end of our public beta testing. It'll conclude tomorrow evening at 5 o'clock. And we actually used a Sharks theme, and you'll see we were giving out buttons or little stickers for those who have beta tested the website. And it's really a way to encourage the public to dive in, explore our beta site, and give us honest feedback about how the experience is for them in contrast to our current site. And of course, during this whole process, we're keeping the end user in mind. Now, to get input, we reached out to past graduates of Leadership Santa Clara, as well as board and commission members. We also utilize social media, of course, next door, to inform the public about the beta site. And we launched an online survey with, to date, has over 170 responses. And so we also have been holding on-location testing at the senior center, as well as library branches. Earlier today, we were at the Northside Branch Library to get input, as well as here at City Hall. And finally, we also conducted 3 focus groups, which really provided us useful information as we tested certain aspects of the site to see, is it functioning the way it should? Are folks able to navigate to the information that they're seeking? And we had about 20 total participants in those focus groups. And so where are we today? Well, we're gathering data to determine if our project goals have been achieved. And so from the focus group, as I mentioned, we did receive very credible and constructive website feedback, including how they navigate the site, as well as what functionality they'd like to see in the future, perhaps. In fact, we even have already improved the search engine based on feedback that we have received from the focus groups, and we're also now looking into how we could perhaps have a more advanced search as well. And so thanks again to all the community members who participated in these focus groups, because their feedback was certainly vital in the success of this project. So the survey's still open, but I did want to share with you some preliminary results that we've received on ease of use in comparison to the current site. More than half, in fact 55%, found it easier or very easy to find information. We also found that people like the overall look and feel of the site. That's close to 50%, and that, as I mentioned, easier to find information. And again, the top reason that they're coming to the site is to find out about city events, as well as city news and information. And that's why you'll see on the homepage of the website, we are highlighting those items, so that way people can find what they want to seek easily and right at the forefront, so that nothing is more than 2 or 3 clicks away. And I just want to share with you a couple of feedback, some quotes that we've received from the survey. One individual said, "I think you nailed it. Nothing I looked for was more than 2 clicks away." And then another individual said, "The current website is a vast improvement from the old one, and it looks pretty hands-on and visually appealing." Now, we did, however, receive some mixed reaction to the video that plays on the homepage of the desktop version of the website. From a branding standpoint, video is a great way to showcase what Santa Clara is all about visually. However, some found the video distracting, while others liked it and felt it was a modern approach. So for right now, we're still evaluating that input. And in terms of ADA accessibility, our website vendor employs both automated and manual methods of checking website accessibility compliance. And we also, as staff, have an automated tool that we can also use to see how accessible the site is and make improvements when there's reason to make those improvements. And so from here, we are now looking at the beta testing concluding tomorrow night, as I had mentioned, and the website redesign project team will evaluate the data and then work with our web content management system vendor to implement any changes that can further improve the functionality of the site as well as its responsiveness. And at this time, given the feedback we've received to date, we are looking to launch the redesigned site in December. And keep in mind that this is just the start of our website journey. We will continuously improve the site based on user feedback and new opportunities to enhance its functionality. So with that, I conclude the presentation and will welcome any questions you may have.
Okay, very good. Thank you for that, Linka. Anyone have questions?
I just have a comment, and it's all good. I had people actually tell me that they can navigate this. They were so happy that we were doing this because they were complaining so much, but like, I don't know who said you nailed it, but people in my neighborhood in Neck of Woods, they love this website. They think you've really gotten so much out of it. They're getting more out of it. And for us, it's easy for them to navigate. It's easy for them to find what they want. And basically, it's council meetings or it's land use or it's, those are general things, but it's so much better. Thank you, Linka. This has been a long time. Believe me, I've been in marketing. We started this a very long, before you got here. And we didn't have much success, a lot of complaints, but I think you did a heck of a job. So congratulations.
Thank you so much, and I give all the credit to the wonderful staff who I work with in making it possible.
Thank you. Councilmember Hardy?
As someone who teaches basic HTML to freshmen, I will tell you that I looked at that from a teaching point of view, and the nice thing is I can use one as a good example and the old one as a bad example, which is good news. And I have a young man in my class who is visually impaired and much better.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So this is just a note and file for the report? Is there a motion to note and file?
So moved.
Motion second to note and file. Anyone in the audience like to speak? I mean you.
I just want to, before we go
City
into it, I was
manager.
going to wait. I also want to thank Kalenka. This was a very delayed project. It was very little resourced in terms of having for resource for completion. And she took this project, worked tirelessly. She will thank her team and she will thank all of the departments, but Lenka really put in the sweat equity and the blood, sweat, and tears, worked long, long weekends, and to the point where I sometimes would have to email her and tell her to stop working because I knew she was already putting in long days. And it is really a reflection of her great work and her commitment to making sure that we got to this goal line. Thank you, Lenka.
Thank you very much. That's it. So we have a motion and a second to note and file. Please register your vote. Vice Mayor Mahan had to leave, wasn't feeling well, so if that's okay with everyone. That's why there's 5 of us left. And that passes unanimously with those present. City Manager, verbal report on the International Association of Science Parks and Areas of Innovation Conference in France.
Yes, this is a report following Councilmember Davis' inquiry to bring back an update on the activities. Just want to refresh our memories that in January, earlier this year, while at the EOC, we got a cold pitch for working forward towards the conference. We began the negotiation process, and later that month, I was able to successfully report out that after 10 years of not being in the United States, that we have become the first host of the United States after 10 years for this prestigious conference. So let's get into the International Association of Science Parks and Areas of Innovation. The organization was created in 1984. It's an international membership-based private nonprofit association in a worldwide network. Think of smart cities, a little bit on steroids here throughout the world. Members represent a network of professionals that manage areas of innovation, science, technology parks, and more than 400 science parks throughout the world, as well as innovation districts in 75 different countries. ISP has not held its World Conference in the United States in more than 10 years. Why Santa Clara? They have had a strong interest in having a conference in the United States, and although they're member-based, they had particularly focused on the Silicon Valley, and so their decision was really between the City to the South Convention Center and Santa Clara's Convention Center. The planning and execution of the annual ISAP World Conference is a collaboration effort between the host community, country, and ISP. The ISP board president, Paul Krucko, has strong ties to the South Bay and reached out to the city, joint venture Silicon Valley, and UC Santa Cruz to assist in bringing the conference to Santa Clara. I also want to share that originally the pitch was to Santa Clara University to partner with joint venture Silicon Valley, but they were not able to make that commitment at the time, and we were then able to enter into discussions. The Santa Clara Convention Center and Destination Marketing Organization expressed their desire as part of their vision and missioning statement to attract a higher level of science and technology conferences, which has also been reiterated by Spectra. And as most recently at their October 28th DMO meeting, they did acknowledge the IASP conference as a model conference for which perhaps hosting it can grow into other host events for these types of science and technology conferences. Partnerships with the joint venture Silicon Valley already held preliminary meetings with key business partners. They are looking for funding opportunities as well as opportunities to showcase the Silicon Valley and all that Santa Clara brings to its contributions, as well as meeting of the minds, bringing together urban sustainability and technology leaders to share knowledge and build alliances through person-to-person and city-to-city learning opportunities. So in terms of Nantes, France, there's some pictures there to your side. The president invited staff to attend for purposes of hosting an international conference, given that the U.S. has not hosted this conference in over 10 years, and just give us an introduction in terms of our commitments for the 2021 conference. There was a booth that featured the City of Santa Clara Convention Center, as well as the City of Santa Clara and Silicon Valley, and to promote awareness around the Silicon Valley and the tech businesses that are present here. The attending allowed for the city to meet with conference officials and do some early promotion of 2021, as well as hear areas of interest and opportunities areas. And this is one thing that I find fascinating. While we were talking about having had the opportunity to sit on plug and play's pitch sessions for venture capitalist funding, I never realized this because I always think of this as how we do our work. But the world knows that pitching for venture capitalist funding in Silicon Valley is a different type of pitch. And so they're very much interested in learning the secret sauce that we experience here. And so we talked about developing sessions related to the pitch sessions here for funding. During the promotional visit, staff spoke to many 2019 attendees. There's a lot of strong interest. In fact, our booth we had in the time that we were there for the later part of one day, people were coming 2 or 3 times just to continue the conversation around the Silicon Valley. Here are just some graphics that we showed in terms of places to visit within the region, as well as businesses within ISP, within the Silicon Valley and Santa Clara, excuse me. So our obligations are we're hosting the 2021 World Conference. It creates a tremendous opportunity to build Santa Clara and the Convention Center as a destination for high-level international conferences, specifically focused on science and technology. The promotion next is 2020 and Seville Conference. And we are already beginning conversations and meetings to continue preparing for the 2021 event. As well as our goal is to make the conference the most successful and the most meaningful conference for attendees. By this time, a lot of the capital projects that the council as well as Spectra has funded will be in place, and we'll be able to showcase the facility from a new light. We did make a video prior to the conference. I wanted to take the opportunity to have the video played. I'm not certain what button to press next. Next button. Here we go.
This is Santa Clara, California, the center of what's possible here in the United States of America. I'm Mayor Lisa Gilmore, and I'm thrilled to welcome all of you to the IASP World Conference that will take place in our vibrant city in 2021. Santa Clara is my hometown, and I can't wait for you to experience our diverse community and all the fun that comes with it. What I love about our Northern California city is it's family-oriented and business-friendly. More than 9,400 businesses, including many of the world's top technology firms, have started, taken root, and thrived here. For those interested in our city's history, the Mission City was founded in 1852 and has an agricultural past. You will no longer find orchards here in the Valley of Heart's Delight, but we continue to harvest the fruits of high tech and have evolved into a thriving, progressive city. While visiting our welcoming city, you can visit Mission Santa Clara, a Spanish mission founded in January 1777 and named for St. Clare of Assisi. It's the first California mission to be named in honor of a woman and is located on the college campus of Santa Clara University. You can also stop by Levi Stadium, home to the San Francisco 49ers and where Super Bowl 50 was played. We're also driving distance to many quintessential California experiences, from wine country in Napa and Sonoma, the beaches in Santa Cruz, and whale watching in Monterey, to the mountains of Lake Tahoe and Yosemite. I welcome you to Santa Clara, and I thank IASP for wisely choosing us for the 2021 World Conference.
We're thrilled to be hosting the IASP World Conference here in 2021, and we cannot wait to showcase some of the great changes we're going to be making to the convention center. And you're going to be some of the first people to see it. We're conveniently located right across the street from Levi Stadium in California's Great America. We also have luxurious hotels, great restaurants, and shopping that's close by. We can't wait to see you here in Santa Clara.
Hi, I'm Manny Gonzalez, Vice President and General Manager at California's Great America. I want to welcome the IASP World Conference to Santa Clara in 2021, a place where you come for knowledge and innovation, but stay for fun at California's Great America.
On behalf of Silicon Valley Santa Clara Destination Marketing Organization, I'm board member Nadine Nader. Here in Santa Clara, California, we are ideally situated in the heart of Silicon Valley. With over 300 days of sunshine and much to offer our visitors, from amusement parks to outdoor entertainment. We are preparing for all of you and look forward to hosting the 2021 IASP conference. À bientôt.
French?
I don't know.
So this video was shown the entire time of the conference. It was a constant scroll. And so we had, and our, the booth for Santa Clara was premier right at the entrance. And so it was a great opportunity to really showcase the city and hopefully attract more conferences.
Thank you. Councilmember Davis?
It's on. Okay. Thank you, City Manager Deanna Santana, for that. Because I wanted to know what was going to happen with that. So I guess, so you answered my question about the video. So it was continually on a reel in our booth that we had there? Is that how that, okay. Next question was, what is the cost going to be to us to host this in 2020? I won't be here, but I'd like to hear, what is it going to cost us?
So that's the job of ISP, between the registration as well as their relationship and partnership with the joint venture. That's their work to do. We just worked with the convention center to lock up the rooms and to lock up the facility.
So then we have, so Kelly was in the video, so we have an idea of what the fiscal impact would be for the city through Kelly and the convention center hotels?
Yes.
Okay, and then you also are going, is someone going to the 2020 Seville?
So we actually just heard from Kelly today that they are going to be sending some staff from the convention center next year. He's not here, he's left.
He left.
As part of their budget, they are also going to begin looking at the logistics and getting ready. And so we'll make further determinations in terms of representation from the city side, but Kelly confirmed today that he's sending a logistics person and folks from that kind of work perspective.
Okay, and so how did you, when you went, how did you, is it seminar-based? I mean, how is it that they do this? I mean, don't know anything about this conference, so I'm just curious, is it like when we go to conferences, we're going to different seminars and learning different things, so how is this set up?
It's all of the above. It's plenaries, it's casual discussions, there's a lot of coffee breaks. There was a lot offered in terms of just food in the middle of the main conference hall. And there's larger panels, as well as one that I showed you, which was an auditorium to hold a larger audience of near, or probably over about 1,000 people for seating.
So so the end game of this conference is to bring awareness of different cultures, or I'm trying to get my hands on the science park thing of it.
So this is, it's 75 countries that have about, I think, 400 innovation zones or innovation centers or science parks. And so essentially smart city elements. And so they share stories and share their experience, everything from land use. One of the main sessions was in terms of how they're using land to promote the science and the synergistic relationships between the science parks that they have. And much of what we have here is just at a larger blown up version. And so through the world gathering in that manner, they look for techniques to replicate and continue to build off of their own science parks or innovation zones or centers.
So are we going to utilize our tech companies or startups, or how are we going to
That's the role of the joint venture. That's where they step in. They're bringing in their members and showcasing and tapping into those resources so that they can add value. As I mentioned, one of the discussions that was had there was the pitch sessions for venture capitalist funding. There's a lot of interest throughout the world in having access to investments to advance technology, and particularly as an innovation center. And it was duly acknowledged that the pitches that take place in the Silicon Valley and how people prepare for them are very different than pitches throughout the world. And so what immediately became notice is that as people are coming from throughout the world, and the joint venture is going to be bringing people where there can possibly be business transactions and sharing of experience and leveraging technology discussions, people in advance want to begin to prepare for how to engage in those types of discussions, which for our purposes is everyday business and transaction, but looking outside into the Silicon Valley, people are acknowledging in front of us it's very different. And so there was a very robust discussion around a couple of us in terms of how we could prepare people to come into the Silicon Valley and make pitches. And as they're exposed to membership from the joint venture, they would be prepared and know the differences in terms of what their backgrounds or how science and technology is advanced from their perspective, how to do it in the Silicon Valley.
Because I was just curious, because when we have people come from like China and India, and a lot of them are engineers, now you're talking Europe, and a lot of them speak multi-languages, and we're basically a lot of English, Spanish, and well, you spoke French, huh? So how are we going to address that? I mean, how are we going to have someone that's going to be able to translate?
That's part of the logistics for the convention center for next year. Surprisingly, a lot of people were speaking in English. However, there was the translators that people could put in their ear and just have those
like the UN?
Have that device, and so that they can receive the translation while the panel discussions were being held in English.
So Nadine,
but the logistics of multi-countries coming together, that's something that the convention center needs to prepare for.
So I know you brought over little tchotchkes to sell the center was possible. How long did it take for them to blast off? I mean, what was the?
20 minutes.
Yeah, maybe. 20 minutes?
20 minutes. Our
Are you
booth was
kidding me?
very popular. Our booth was very, there is a lot of interest to come to the Silicon Valley. And the booth was 20 minutes.
Wow. Okay, so you got to sit in a booth. You're shaking your head, you're going, okay, so everybody had a good time. I saw you in a photo, Ruth. Was that you? Okay. I think you answered all my questions. You handed out all the bags within 20 minutes and the seminars attended and how we're going to logistically do this and the cost. When are we coming back with another report, you know, as this goes on? I mean, are you going to update us on this? It sounds really exciting to me. I mean, it sounds like a big deal, so.
The likeliness of a next update won't be until next year. Right now, it's just joint venture and UC Santa Cruz and ISP planning. We're stepping in as needed, but certainly able to, just like I did earlier this year when everything started to really come together, I can provide an update sometime next year.
Yeah, because I'm real interested in the marketing part of this, of course. You know, I'd like to know how we're going to promote the city and, yeah.
Nadine is saying we should bring it to the marketing committee and provide updates there.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, those are my questions.
Councilmember Watanabe and then Hardy after that.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for that. I love the video. I'd love to see that on our website. In terms of promoting the event, maybe we could recirculate it. But how many people attended the event? Just curiosity.
I'd have to get back to you. They are generally between 1,000 to 1,500.
Oh, really? Okay, okay. I figured it'd be, I don't know why I was thinking it would be bigger than that, but that's still a lot of people.
Well, and that's one of the observations there is that because the folks that have been at this for multiple years see the interest, they're saying that we should plan for bigger.
Great. Okay, good. And how many days is it?
3 to 4 days.
3 to 4 days. Okay, great. And
So a lot of room nights.
yes, exactly. Yes, and maybe opportunities to plan some community events. Did we get a keynote speaker? I know we talked about this earlier this year. Did we ever confirm a keynote speaker? Or do we still need to work on that? Because
We need to lock that all up.
Okay, good. Okay, so I'll follow up with you on that. And then I was just going to say, I mean, we've got some great organizations in the area. I'm thinking about John Hartnett and his Irish Innovation Center down in San Jose. I bet he would love to be a part of this. And also St. Clair. I mean, if we're going to promote St. Clair, we definitely have to wash our hair. So we're going to have to take
Where's Manuel?
Where's
we're
Manuel?
going to have to take
Out there cleaning St. Clair's?
yeah, that's all I have.
Thank you for reminding me, Councilmember Watanabe. Could we have that on our next meeting?
We will provide an update on where we're at with
With
that.
St.
That
Clair,
we will,
thank you
yes.
very much. Councilmember Hardy.
I had a question along the same lines of this being international and it being in Sevilla, Spain next year. The video, are you going to do in subtitles in Spanish and French? Usually what you'll do.
I'm half Spanish, so I can speak.
Yeah, so
in
international, usually you will do French, Spanish, and English, like they do at the, I'm just thinking that we should, especially if it's in Sevilla.
We can consult with the IASP and see how they feel, like what's the next steps in terms of whether to translate the video or not.
Well, I'm just thinking
put
even just
some
subtitles.
Some subtitles, we can consult with them.
In other languages, just so that we capture that international feel, because we have a lot of languages around here.
Thank you. City Manager, you mentioned the Silicon Valley Leadership Group is also involved in this. Are they going to be funding any part of it when they come to Santa Clara? Are they taking control of that? Because I think Councilmember Davis asked the questions, what is going to be our responsibility? But it sounds like this is their conference, so.
I may have misspoke. It's Silicon Valley Joint Venture, and so they're working with their members.
Silicon Valley.
Joint venture.
It's
joint-
between the city, the joint venture,
Oh,
and the
okay. I
convention
thought it
center.
was, I thought
However,
you said
we're not.
leadership group.
Yeah, we're
so-
not. I may have misspoke.
No, I probably
Okay.
misheard. So,
So we're working in partnership. They're taking the responsibility for tapping into the Silicon Valley businesses and the world of technology here. There is not a financial contribution on the part of the city for donating for the conference or the event. That is all IASP, and joint venture will be bringing the talent and showcasing the Silicon Valley.
And I saw that there's a local person here that's in charge of the IASP, right? Was there a local person?
No.
Who was that gentleman that you mentioned in your report?
Right, well, he is based out of Michigan.
Oh, Paul Krukow?
Mr. Paul Krukow.
I thought he's a local person.
No, he used to be.
Okay,
he
that's
used to
where
work
I
in
know
the Silicon
him.
Valley.
Yes, that's where
but
I know him.
He's out
Okay.
of Michigan.
Okay, I remember him from being here. So, yeah, I know who that is. All right. And then the last question, how many attendees do we think will come to Santa Clara?
I can come back with that information, but as I mentioned earlier, that the estimates are generally between 1,000 to 1,500 for conferences. Mr. Krukow himself was saying that he's expecting it to be larger here.
All right.
Just because of the heightened interest.
All right, very good. Thank you. I don't think we take any action on that report.
I do have one more announcement if I can.
Okay.
Today's Records Appreciation Day. The California Senate has proclaimed November 12th as Law Enforcement Records and Support Personnel Day. Today, the command staff bought pizza and ice cream for our personnel in records. We also obtained a signed proclamation from the mayor, and staff was able to present that to staff on duty today. And I just want to acknowledge our very hardworking law enforcement records and support personnel who provide critical daily support to the city and to ensure our safety. So didn't want to end the evening without acknowledging
Thank you for
their hard work.
acknowledging them. That's wonderful. Couldn't do that with anything without them. All right, we have the update on our Stadium Authority referrals and our TMAC calendar. Do we have any adjournments this evening? No adjournments. All right, is there a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Motion to adjourn and second. Please register your vote. And that passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Meeting's adjourned.